Hey, welcome to the 464th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I just did a look back at Action Comics 454, where Superman's like chowing down on a bunch of hamburgers. It was a facsimile edition that I just got, but I was always curious about that cover. And I do offer my mind about random topics and so forth. I'm always open to suggestions too if there's anything you want to hear me go in depth about. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. And that is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. All right, what is going on this week? It is Comic-Con weekend, or it was Comic-Con weekend. And I didn't go. I'm debating, looking at like Jimmy Palmiotti posted like a video. I think he did a live and in a video where it's standing waiting for the trains to go by. Actually, I think it was an actual train. It wasn't the commuter train, which is cool that they do that. That you're able to get on there if you're at one of the hotels and so forth. But there's just like so many people, and they were talking about, they had a panel and they were hoping to get there in time, and I really don't think they're going to make it. Yeah, there's just so many people. It's going to be hot, or it was probably hot, and I debated. I thought about it long and hard, and I don't know. Since I go on my own, I don't know if it's worth it. Like the amount of content that I get and what I get out of it, versus I could save money. Because, 2 years ago when I went, I don't know if I mentioned it, it was like $1,500 just for the hotel. For Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I checked out Sunday, left my luggage there, and, whatever, I got it, and then went to the airport. So that is just a crazy amount. And, now since I'm doing this on my own, I mean, it'd be one thing if I could split that or whatever. It's so exhausting trying to do coverage and just to do stuff that's cool, that's worth. And when I do the interviews, it's like, I always think it's like these are kind of cool interviews, but it's like they don't get a lot of traction. So it's like, should I be doing this? I don't know. So I'm kind of bummed. I mean, it's hard, because I didn't go last year either, and I'm not sure. What the answer is. But with that, we're going to see like what. What's going to be on this week's episode? Let's talk about that. The strange thing, there was no movie. I mentioned it probably last week. I wanted to see that. I think it's called Her Private Hell. Sophie Thatcher. I think she's amazing. She's great in Yellow Jackets. She was great in The Heretic, and she's great in Companion. So she's got this movie. I don't really know much about it. It's like a smaller, almost like an indie movie, I would say. But Neon is distributing it, and there's something about these smaller movies. Obviously, you look at like Obsession and Backrooms. It's like you don't always need to have a $200 million budget to be the best thing ever. You can have cool movies with that. But I was really curious to see it. And I think I mentioned it last week. So they never showed it in my area in north of San Francisco. All the theaters here, no one got it, and I'm not going to drive into the city just to see a movie. Which I'm not even sure how long it is, and I don't even know if I hope it's good. I didn't look at anything. So what I did go to see was The Invite. So The Invite was directed by Olivia Wilde. She's in the movie, so stars Olivia Wilde, Seth Rogen, Penélope Cruz, and Edward Norton. It came out on July 10th, so it came out a couple weeks ago, and my buddy really liked it, and I was just like, well, I'm not going to see Minions and Monsters. I was like, there's nothing to see. guess I'll go see The Invite. And the other thing is, it's like two couples. And, I wasn't really sure what the movie is about. And I was like, I don't know if that is a quote unquote podcast movie. You'll hear about that. The spoiler, it turned out, I was really impressed. I really liked that movie. So I have some stuff to say about it. And maybe it's good to mix things up. Maybe some of you out there might want to hear about something like that. And I would definitely say it's worth checking out if you want a break, something different that's not just big, huge, spectacle, special effects and whatever. And I'm not talking about like the Odyssey, because there was no CG in the Odyssey, despite what some people say. The pig scene was practical effects, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you can hear about the Invite. And then we got Silo, and again, I'm still debating, should I continue that? We got another episode of X-Men 97, another episode of My Adventures with Superman, and then some news. So we'll see how the news goes. I might have to edit this, because as I'm recording this, I've been kind of just waiting. It's like, is there going to be any big news coming out of San Diego? And just some spoilers. I'm recording this. I actually recorded the rest of the podcast. I've recorded everything else except for the news section, and I've been holding off on this in case anything big comes out. If so, we'll see how long it goes, because I like to work on editing it like over the weekend and everything, and not have to do the last minute, especially since I post it live on Sunday. But sometimes Saturday there's big news. I don't know when I'm going to call it. So I'm recording this now, TMI, and I may add, if something huge happens, then I'll just tack it on in between this part and the comic segment. And if there's anything major that happens, let's talk about it next week. I'm assuming you're not coming to this show for your weekly news source. Maybe. If so, awesome. But yeah, you're probably going to hear stuff before you hear. So it's more of like, what do I think about it? So speaking of news and what I can say about it, I'm assuming you've seen the Avengers Doomsday trailer that came out earlier in the week. I understand some people might be avoiding trailers. Some people don't want to see trailers. But I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to not necessarily break it down, but it's like, what the heck happened in this trailer? Because there's a lot. There's a lot that happens, but really when you think about it, there's not a whole lot of extra stuff. It's stuff that we've seen already. It's just like a little bit longer. And there's a couple new stuff. Just what exactly happens? It starts off, we see like the rubble of Xavier's school. It's like, the signs on the floor. It's like, what happened? I'm trying to think of the last time we saw the X-Men. Was it the Phoenix, Dark Phoenix? I barely remember that movie because I was not happy with it. I'm still trying to figure out, because Cyclops is dead. Did they do the Phoenix Saga twice? Because when Famke Janssen turned into the Phoenix, and wasn't it X-Men 3? She zapped Cyclops, supposedly. We just saw his glasses floating or something like that. But so Charles is like, something's coming. And it's like, wait, is Charles having psychic flashes, visions? Because we see him like in his chair at the window, and there's like some big ball of flame or something coming. And I'm assuming that didn't happen, because he says like something's coming and they're not going to be able to get away from it or something. And then we see Doctor Doom. We get a shot of Doctor Doom. Now, from what I've heard, I don't even think we're going to see Robert Downey Jr. in this movie. Spoiler. I mean, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but I heard that he's mainly going to be Doctor Doom, that he's not going to take the mask off, which would make sense, because why would he take the mask off? But he's, speaking with an accent, and one of the things, like, oh my gosh, it was so annoying. Rob Liefeld, he's been doing these like reaction videos on I don't know if he does it on YouTube. I've been seeing him on Facebook when I open up my Facebook page. There's a lot of like questions. Hey Rob, who would win? And it's like different people or something like that, and whatever. But he did a reaction to this. And it was weird. it wasn't like your typical reaction. I don't normally, and I don't know if this is how people do it nowadays. I don't watch reaction videos that often because I always feel, because I'm so super skeptical, I always feel like people like watch it, analyze it, whatever, and then they pretend as if they're watching it for the first time, and then you get the like almost over exaggerated, oh my god, and it's like, I don't know. I feel maybe it's real. I don't buy it. And because if you're gonna do it, I mean, I guess there's something I don't think I've ever done like a straight up pure reaction video. You know, every time a new trailer came out, it was always about, you know, you break it down, and that's what got us views. When you would just go scene by scene and just talk about like, what the heck does this mean? How does this relate to anything? How is this connected to the comics and so forth? So I don't know, but what Rob Liefeld was, because he seems to constantly want to tear apart everything Marvel. It's like, dude, why are you watching it if you are so upset? You're still giving it attention, even if you're trying to give it negative attention. You're still giving it attention, and people are just gonna, either they're gonna agree with you because they're whatever loyal fans, or they're gonna think that you're crazy and they're not gonna agree, or they might get defensive and say, well, if he doesn't like this, then whatever, you know. But he's just sitting there like making fun of the accent and like over. He like it was just like overkill. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a weird accent. It's a little tiny clip. How is it going to work in a movie? Maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be worse. I don't know. But he just goes on and on about this, and it's like you're really coming down on Robert Downey Jr. now, who's like, he's kind of like the golden child in the Marvel universe. You know, everyone loves Robert Downey Jr. Everyone, you know, praises him. And this is a guy that loves taking selfies with the celebrities. And then now you're crapping all over him because of the way he's delivering his lines. I don't know. It just seemed weird. But then, you know, because Thor's doing the talking now, and he's at Avengers Tower. It's like, oh, that's interesting, because after Thunderbolts, you know, we know that they moved in there. And, you know, we see a shot. There's Sam as Captain America, Bucky, and Scott Lang. So it's interesting that Scott Lang's there, because it's like, what has he been doing? Then the Fantastic Four are there. There's a shot where we see everyone in the room, and I couldn't quite tell who it was, but you see Yelena, Red Guardian, U.S. Agent, and there's a couple others. I think it would make sense if it was Ghost. I don't know if, what's her name? Not Valerie. DeFontaine. What's her name? I just literally was watching a movie with my daughter a few days ago. Of the Vanessa, no, Valentina. Valentina, I can't even say it. Valentina Allegra DeFontaine. So it might have been her. I don't know. I think it might have been that shot. People said like, oh, why is there an empty space there? Did they erase, you know, people, or is there other people? Are there supposed to be other people in that scene? They're not showing us. I don't know. Then we see Namor on a throne, and I don't know if it's like an Atlantean throne, because in the next shot you see Shuri. It's like, I don't think Namor would be like on the Wakandan throne, because I think M'Baku is on the throne. He's leading Wakanda. So Thor's talking about, and basically he's kind of scared, you know, about something coming. Then we see some stairs blow up, and it's like, is that Doctor Strange? Is that the Sanctum Sanctorum stairs, or is it stairs at the Xavier Institute? Because then we see like Cyclops blasting in his costume. We see Gambit versus Shang-Chi, which is interesting. I saw someone, I don't remember where it was. Someone's like, why is Gambit there? You know, or like, it was an interesting choice of using Gambit, because, you know, Gambit was in Deadpool versus Wolverine, obviously, and he was kind of a joke. And I think, where did I see this? Because I think someone said that it was actually going to be more serious, or like he's going full Cajun or something. So we'll see about that. And I don't know about, you know, the whole using the rings to fight or to block Gambit's power. We'll see. I don't know. Then we see Loki like at the TVA, but it's like Loki was like beyond. He was like on the whatever multiverse throne, but then he's like back at the TVA. He's got a badge and he's wearing like the TVA suit outfit, whatever. So I don't know about that. And then we see them going to Wakanda. Like Thing shakes hands with M'Baku. We saw that before. Then we see Yelena versus Mystique, and Mystique changes. So it's Rebecca Romijn, and I saw like a little thing that doing this movie was so much better than the last time. Apparently, she had a horrible time with Brett Ratner, which doesn't seem surprising from everything I've heard. That it was just I don't. She's talked about it before. Apparently, I don't really know what it is, and I guess I don't really need to know what it is. But it was like he was just like horrible to her. It was embarrassing in front of like crew and everything like that. And I don't know, but I've heard. I don't know if it's true. I've heard a lot of bad things about him. We see them fighting, and it's like weird. It's like this is like what's going on with the story? What does this mean? Why is Yelena fighting Mystique? Why is Mystique there? Yeah, we got Fantastic Four. They showed up, so it's like what's going on with all this multiverse or traveling? I don't know. And then Thor's talking about it's like we're going to need a miracle, and then he's walking, and you hear, "Hey pal," and he's like, "It's not possible." And then he holds up Mjolnir. You see a hand, and then zhunk, and it goes to Steve Rogers. And he looks his hair is like more brown, which it happens. But it's like, it almost, I don't know, there's something off about him. And I don't know if I'm just crazy, but it was like when we saw the teaser trailer with Steve Rogers, it just, his hair seemed more blonde there, and now it's not, but who knows? I don't know what the thing, because there's been a lot of thoughts and rumors is like, oh, it's not really Steve Rogers, it's Hydra Steve, it's an evil Steve. And I wonder is it Steve Rogers from wherever Doctor Doom's at, whatever that world, because you hear stories like Doctor Doom is like obsessed with Steve Rogers for some reason, and I don't know what Steve Rogers this is. Is it our Steve Rogers? That would be great. And, is he going to do this and then go back to Peggy Carter and whatever version? I don't even know where he's at, if he's in the regular, if he's in a different timeline now. I don't know. But if he is evil, he shouldn't be able to take Mjolnir because, he has to be worthy. So if he's a evil doppelganger, Mjolnir would know. And I think they've clarified that before, maybe in the comics. I don't know. So December 18th, and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. If that's the same, because that's the same day as Dune 3, right? When I do the podcast that week, Avengers Doomsday is going to be the first week. And then probably what I'll do is I'll do Dune the following week, because I'm assuming since it's close to Christmas, there's probably not going to be something else opening. Yeah, so I just looked up the calendar, the tentative calendar so far. So December 18th, we have Avengers Doomsday, Dune Part 3. And then the following week on Wednesday, this is going to be tricky. Because on Wednesday the 23rd, you have Angry Birds movie 3. That's not the tricky part. But you have The Adventures of Cliff Booth on Netflix. I thought that was getting a theatrical release. I wonder if that... Maybe it's not? Because since... oh, no. Oh, my good... Well, maybe. Okay, so November 25th apparently is The Adventures of Cliff Booth, IMAX only. So I hope my theater gets that. That's the same also as Meet the Parents 4, the Fokker-in-Law. So if I see Adventures of Cliff Booth in November, then that following week, would be, if I don't see it, then it's going to be Cliff Booth and Dune 3, because then Christmas Day you got Jumanji 3. I don't know about that. But then that could be, because that's December 25th. January 1st, the only thing so far is a movie called Pendulum which is a couple journeys to a retreat in New Mexico seeking healing. Patrick grows skeptical of the retreat's leader as Abigail falls under her influence. They wonder if the group's practices offer genuine healing or conceal a terrifying truth. And I have no idea. Oh, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Norman Reedus. Abigail is Phoebe Denver. Okay, I don't know. So what was I saying? Yeah, so December 18th. I'm seeing Doomsday, not Doomsday. I'm seeing Doomsday before Dune. That's just how I'm going to be rolling. So let's see. There was a new trailer for Resident Evil, and okay, so yeah, he's a delivery guy. I thought he was just like a messenger because I keep saying he's a delivery guy. No, he's not like delivering pizzas. He's not DoorDash or Uber or whatever you prefer. He's delivering like organs, like kidney transfer, heart transfer, and it's like oh, we need this delivered. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. And you see him driving, and then he's like, okay, I'm done, because it's like, I think it's like winter, the roads are bad and everything, and then they're like oh, we got one more. You want to take this? And he doesn't even know what it is, but it could save someone's life. So he's like, all right, I'll do it. And then that's so I'm spoiling the trailer. So he's driving down the road, and he's like, I think talking to his girlfriend, because I think she's kind of not happy that he's not home. But he's like, I'm saving a life here. He's working, but maybe he's working too much, whatever. And then something comes out in the road, and he like hits it. It's a zombie. You don't really get a good look at it, but we have to assume it's a zombie, right? And so he like stops, and he's looking, and there's nothing there, and he sees like tracks going into the woods. Oh, it's not going to be good. And then he sees the house, and he tries the phone and everything like that. So it's I'm super excited for that. I can't wait for it. I'm really, really happy that that's coming out. Green Lantern trailer. So I haven't seen the Green Lantern trailer yet. I may edit and talk about that in a few minutes if you're listening, if all goes according to plans. But on what was it? Thursday, there was like a teaser, trailer tomorrow, James Gunn, talking about that. And you see a little bit of footage, and you see like Hal making this like lantern construct tornado to deal with something. So it's like, okay, that's cool. We're actually seeing some stuff. I'm just so worried. The rumor is that Hal Jordan's going to die early on. Like he's possibly going to die in the first episode, which I would hate. I'm going to hate that with a burning passion if they kill off Hal Jordan right away. Two reasons. One, I love Hal Jordan. I've said it. He is my favorite Green Lantern because he is the one I first discovered and one that I bonded to. And the second thing is Kyle Chandler. I mean, he's a cool guy. Coach Riggs, right? No, it's not Coach Riggs. Coach, because it's Tim Riggs. What's his name? Friday Night Lights, and early edition, right? So I just hope they don't kill him off, because then the other thing, I don't know if he's going to be in the trailer, because we'll see that maybe or maybe not. But Sinestro's supposed to appear at some point. I think he's in a prison or something like that. So if you're going to have Sinestro, I mean it. Yes, you can have Sinestro without Hal Jordan, but it's like if you have Sinestro, you need Hal, because I don't know. We'll see. There was a new Clayface trailer. It looks interesting. It's weird because it doesn't really fit. It doesn't quite look like Superman or Supergirl, like the world, and it's just a different vibe. So we'll see, because it's like everything in the DC universe is everyone's like making jokes all the time, and there's going to be no jokes in this because this gets pretty dark. So we'll see. But I still say it's an interesting choice. And I know there's a lot of people apparently that are mad. It's like, why are we getting Clayface before Batman or whatever? And yeah, it makes sense. But I do agree, or I do feel it's probably easier to do something like this. There's lower stakes. This probably costs a lot less, Because if you're gonna do something if you're gonna do one of the big tier characters, there's like so much pressure and there's so much writing on it. You got to get the perfect casting, and then there's going to be so much money that has to go in there just to make everything right. Versus you take a little, side character. Sorry, Clayface, but it's just going to be easier to do this. And yeah, so we'll see. I am so scared now to look at anything because I don't want Spider-Man Brand New Day spoilers. And like Sadie Sink, she did this video. She's in front of a green screen. She sits in a chair and she's like, which camera? Just, and then she takes like a deep breath because she's about to. It might have been actually before a press tour because I did. She was wearing like a black dress or skirt or whatever you want to call it. Don't ask me. And it doesn't make sense. It's like, why have her on a press tour? Because she can't talk about the characters. And like I saw, like, don't try to trick someone into revealing something. It's like, why are you trying to get them in trouble? Because it's like, oh, you go into a store like and you buy a pair of jeans, and she's like, yeah, uh-huh. And they're like, what color would it be? Would it be gray or something like that? It's just like, it's not funny. It's not cute. I don't know. So we still don't know who she's playing. Tom Holland, spoiler. I mean, Tom Holland, king of spoilers, but he said something. So he's talking about Jean Grey, and he said she's not in this movie, but it would be pretty cool. I don't know what that means. They have literally straight up lied. No, Andrew Garfield is not in this movie. They had him straight up lie. Tobey Maguire's not in the movie. No, there's no one erased in this. And then they were in the movie. So I don't know. As much as I would love for Sadie Sink to play Jean Grey, it doesn't make sense to introduce Jean Grey in a Sony/Marvel movie. If you are going to introduce the X-Men characters, you would want it in a pure Marvel Studios movie, not a joint production. Because I don't even know how they would do that, like legal-wise, because then it's like, wait, who created quote-unquote Jean Grey? And I don't know if it's different, because like when you have like the Netflix, it's like, oh, the showrunner is the creators. They created the characters. It's like, no, they didn't. Stan Lee and whichever artist on whichever book. So it just doesn't make sense that they would start the X-Men stuff in Spider-Man. But then it's like, I really hope she's not the Spider Queen or whatever that character's name is. She's got to be someone, because if she's going to be in Doomsday, if she's going to appear later, if you're going to cast a cool actor, you got to cast them as a cool character, not some lame old one-off thing that no one's going to care if they ever appear again. Because if Sadie Sink is down for doing more Marvel movies from time to time, along with whatever else she wants to do, it's like give her a cool character to play. So I don't know, we'll see. But where I'm scared is I don't want to know. I saw like one thing where I don't know if it was finally revealed. I don't think so, because I feel like it would be everywhere. And I really worry about opening up Facebook or Instagram, because while I'm selective with who I follow, especially when it comes to like entertainment stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily trust some of those, there's like so much recommended, algorithm or whatever stuff. And some stuff, it's like, why are you showing me this? Why do you keep showing me this? I've done nothing to trigger this into my algorithm. But it's like, I constantly get like all these weird random things suggested. And if I happen to look at an Entertainment Weekly or Hollywood Reporter or Marvel or whatever, the algorithm might think like, oh, he wants more entertainment use. Here's some other ABC ABC 123 entertainment for you and me.com. Maybe they have no scruples and they'll spoil whatever because it might get hits if we plaster it out there. Some people do not care. So I don't want to be spoiled. And it seems so silly because, again, it's like oh, Punisher's in a movie. It's not a spoiler. The Hulk's in a movie. We didn't know that Hulk was going to be in there before. It could have just been Banner. But yeah, I just, whatever, we'll see. There's Percy Jackson and Olympian season 3. I still haven't watched season 2. But season 3 is going to be coming out on November 20th this year. So that I really dig that they're doing these like one per year. Because I'm pretty sure season 2 came out last year. Because some of my students were super excited for it. And that's the thing. If you want to keep this audience, and because there's been reports where like people aren't watching season 2 of Netflix shows. That seems crazy to me. People aren't watching season 2 of Netflix shows because Netflix cancels them after the first season. There's so many shows that get canceled and there is no season 2. But apparently a lot of people, and why do I think people aren't watching season 2? I think because they're forgetting about the show. Because those people who are into binging, they'll watch everything within a day or two. And then by the time the second season comes out, they've forgotten about it because they watch everything at once, and then they watch something else, and it's like pushed out of their mind. Versus if they were watching it week by week, it would stick. It would make more of an impact. They would have more time to think and process and relate to the characters more versus watching everything at once. So I think that's the problem. But I'm so glad that for the fans of Percy Jackson that they're getting it every year so they can keep up with it. And the other thing is, like, if you got these kid actors, you have to use them before they get too old, because then unless you're going to age them, I don't know how much time passes between the books, but I'm assuming not much. So we'll see about that. But I might watch season 2 at some point. I don't know when I'm going to have time for that. Johnny Depp was at San Diego Comic-Con. So they're making, was it Paramount, I think? I don't remember now. They're making a Ebenezer movie. And because there's like a teaser trailer for this. And I don't understand why. It's like before, I think it takes place before was it Christmas Carol? Whatever the thing is. I don't know if it's because of the old-timey, period piece. I really don't care to see. I feel like there's been so many different Ebenezers. There's Scrooge with Bill Murray. There's Muppet Christmas Carol. I don't need, was it Michael Caine? Did he play Scrooge? Do we really need another Scrooge, another Ebenezer? But Johnny Depp apparently was there. There's it was probably at the outside Hall H, over by the Bayfront, I'm assuming, where they have all the different studios. Maybe not, it doesn't matter. But there's a Scrooge thing, and then Johnny Depp comes out and it's on a porch and in character and talking. And what was annoying from this clip I saw, I don't know if it was Deadline that posted or whatever, but people are like, oh, Ebenezer, oh, Merry Christmas, Ebenezer, we love you. It's just like, because one, he's trying to be in character, but these people, it's like, okay, he's there, he's got his line, he's got his little shtick to do. He's not there to make personal contact with you. Don't try to engage with Johnny Depp just because you're awestruck that there's a celebrity there and you want him to look at you and acknowledge your existence. That's not what he is there for. He does not care. He is doing that. I'm surprised he was doing it, but he's just doing his little bit. And then when his time's up, he is out of there. I don't know. I'm just so frustrated. Maybe I'm just bitter because I'm not there. I don't know. But it's like, come on. Ridley Scott is doing a Treasure Island movie? What? I can't even imagine. Is it straight up? Because when I think Ridley Scott, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking more like sci-fi or whatever, big production. And he's doing Treasure Island. Maybe he's doing a straight up, he doesn't just do science fiction. But it's just, I haven't heard anything about this. You might be like, yeah, no kidding. But he's doing Treasure Island, and Hugh Jackman is going to be playing Long John Silver. I think the new that might not be news. I think the news is that Sony is in talks to produce it. Okay, we'll see. This is new to me. I think Chips talk about it, but Chip Zdarsky and Ramon Perez, they did this comic called Stillwater, which I talked about on the comic when it was out, and it's in development as a series at Amazon MGM Studios. So if that means it's going to be on MGM Plus, I won't be watching it. I hope they bring it to Amazon. So what is Stillwater? The description, they said it was like a criminal. I don't think he was a criminal in the comics, but maybe they're tweaking it. Where he gets an invite to go to the town of Stillwater, and there's supposed to be like an inheritance or something. Basically, what happens is he goes there. He gets a letter from someone, I forget who, and what he discovers is that no one in the town ages, and you are not allowed to leave. And he was actually born there, but was like kind of snuck out and grew up. But while you are there, you don't age. You can't die. But they can't let anyone leave, because if anyone leaves and they talk about it, then they can't let the secret out, because people would be like, what's going on? We want this fountain of youth, or we want to live forever. And so there's a lot of control, and I think it's going to be a cool series. So I'm excited for that. Speaking of cool series, there's going to be an Afterlife with Archie. We've talked about this before. It's been announced that it was going to be at Disney Plus, but now I guess it's official, where it's in development. And what's cool is Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. He's the one that wrote the comic. He's also worked on Riverdale, which I enjoyed. It was weird and wacky, and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which was cool. And Greg Berlanti, his production, he worked on both of those. So that's cool. Obviously, they're going to recast. They're not going to use a Riverdale cast. I would love it if they did. But if they're going for the high school, vibe, they're not going to be able to. And the other actors, they're busy doing other things. But I'm excited for it. I just don't know how it's going to be for the non-Archie fans, because then it's just going to be a zombie show, and I don't know. I hope people can appreciate that these are friggin' Archie characters dealing with a zombie apocalypse. I think that's going to be amazing. Ryan Coogler's The X-Files, still no official word on anything like that, so we don't know how the pilot, what the reaction is. The pilot was apparently shot on 65 millimeter film, which is not something that's normally done. But there's talk that it might be turned into a feature if they don't move forward with Hulu. Like if Hulu doesn't want to go with it. I mean, because Hulu didn't want the Buffy revival. So, I want it to be a show. Because if you're doing a movie, you can't do like the mission or case of the week, and how often are we gonna have movies? So I hope Hulu agrees. Then some comic news. Let's jump here while I have this in front of me. So we got this current stuff happening with Avengers Armageddon, and it's affecting it's the United Nations told Avengers don't go to Latveria because Doom's gone and all this stuff. But then Red Hulk's like trying to he decided to take over and do New America, and then Avengers and other Fantastic Four, they're like, well, we have to go stop them, even though the United Nations like don't, because every time you guys go you make things worse or whatever. So there's like all this stuff going on. Captain America's like in a coma because Red Hulk's just a big jerk and like almost killed him. But apparently, after all that is done, the Avengers kind of have to like regroup and catch their breath. And I don't know, the governments are going to be mad at the Avengers. I don't know what the people's reaction is going to be. but they're going to kind of like, well, okay, we need to take a break or whatever. So for whatever reason, the X-Men are going to step up to become Earth's mightiest heroes. And we're getting a new series called Maximum X-Men. So that's interesting, rather than just like X-Men or Uncanny X-Men or Extreme X-Men, let's call them Maximum X-Men. It's like, okay. And it's going to be written by Christopher Yost. I love Chris. He's such a nice guy. There was a while where we were exchanging emails, and I think we did an interview over email or something like that. And then I remember I interviewed him at what was the Oregon? Was it Rose? Not Rosewood. Rose something in Oregon. And so he's written the X-Men, new X-Men. He wrote a bunch. He's written X-Men for a while. I'm just thinking when he was writing Scarlet, he's like, Scarlet Spider's coming back. He's teasing it, and then it was Kane Parker, and I'm like, oh, because I wanted Ben Reilly back, and I literally shook my fist at him at this convention. And he's like, well, so he's a super nice guy, super talented. I just totally appreciate everything that he does. So he's going to be writing that. So it's cool that he's back. I'm looking forward to that. He's doing something else. We'll see when we get to comics. I don't know if there's something this week or last week. But then Tony S. Daniel. It's a weird one when they do the credits because they always call him Christopher Yost. I've always called him Chris Yost. And when I've done interviews, it's I'm talking to Chris Yost, but so I don't know about that. Maybe he prefers Christopher. And then Tony Daniel, they list him as Tony S. Daniel. I always call him Tony Daniel. I don't know, but he's been working with Jed McKay and X-Men, and Tony Daniel. He's a cool guy too, and he's just amazing. His art is just it's he gets better and better every time he puts out a book. So they're going to be working on this. And who is going to be on this team? So we got Storm. And so it looks, because the press release, what I saw is that Storm is going to be leading the team. And I saw someone else post about it. They're like, Storm and Wolverine leading the team. It's no, it's Storm. Wolverine doesn't want to be a leader. So we got Storm. We got Wolverine. And spoiler, looks like he's got his claws. And he's wearing his brown and yellow. We got Psylocke, and it's interesting because Psylocke appears to be in the blue and gold or whatever you want to call it costume. It's okay, that's cool. And then we had someone, when I first saw this image, I'm like, is that Gambit? Because he got someone with brown hair and a open-faced mask, but it's weird. He's wearing the blue and yellow, blue and gold, whatever, and he's got this expression on his face. It's actually Vance. They said Vance. So Vance Astrovic, Justice. Actually, no, maybe they just said Justice. I don't remember what they said. So he's in here. That's cool because where's he been? And he's never. I don't know if he's ever hung out with done anything with the X-Men. He's a mutant, but he's never done anything. Then we got Colossus, which is interesting because where's he been? Plowing fields, working on the farm. I don't know. We got Bishop. And then we got Iceman and Firestar. So I wonder, will Angelica and Vance get back together? Because they were together for the longest time, and I was always rooting for them. So it'll be interesting. And who are they going to fight first? They are going to be fighting friggin' Annihilus from the Negative Zone. Got a interdimensional invasion. That's okay. You're upping the stake. This is not your regular X-Men book. So that's going to be very interesting. That comes out December 2nd. So we'll have to wait for that. So that's going to be cool. All right. Continue with the news edit. Just full disclosure here. So just a little bit more news that came out. And I don't think I'm going to cover Saturday because as I'm recording this, we'll talk about anything major that happens. We'll just do it next week. So another thing I want to talk about is Marvel announced Indiana Jones comic, and when I heard that, when I saw that, I'm like, why haven't they done that already? It's a no brainer because Disney owns the license. They own Lucasfilm and everything, and we've had Star Wars comics since like 2015 or something like that. And we already have Predator comics. I think there's a Predator versus Punisher comic that's coming out. There is we've had Aliens comics. Have we had any like straight up Planet of the Apes or just Planet of the Apes versus Fantastic Four? But we have the movie licenses that Disney owns. We've seen comics and it makes sense. It's like, why not? That's cool. They own it. Let's put some talent behind it and make some cool stuff. So we are going to have an Indiana Jones comic, and it's taking place right after Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I think that's great if you're going to do it. Start at the beginning. It's a 5-issue limited series. It's going to be written by Jason Aaron with art by Aaron Cooter. So that's a great team there. Jason Aaron's talked about how he's been wanting to do this. He's so excited when he first saw the movie and everything like that. And Aaron Cooter, I mean, he's a great artist, and he feels like Indiana Jones. There should be a comic based off of him with him. So we have that coming. It comes out in December, so you can look for that. There's gonna be like an interconnecting cover by Aaron Cooter. There's also, now here's the thing. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of covers, because cover A, so the main cover, is by Brian Hitch, and it's a cool cover. I mean, he does a great job capturing the likeness. Then they've revealed an Alex Ross cover, because of course they got Alex Ross, because Alex Ross is amazing. He's doing cover F. Cover B is the Aaron Cooter 5-part connecting cover, and the fact that we got A, B, and then it jumps to F. So like, what's C, D, and E? They may do like, what do they call them? Not virgin covers. Nude. I call them nude covers when there's no text or anything like that. But I'm sure, a lot of times they'll do black and white, whatever, or they'll do the blank covers. So, because they mentioned that there will be a variant cover program. So I don't know if that means they're gonna, like, retailers can do their own covers, if they can arrange it. But we have that coming out, so that'll be cool. Other things, I'm trying to think what else there was. There's a Spaceballs panel, and they joked that this is like the beginning of a new cinematic universe, and there's going to be all these, they had like all these phase 1, phase 2, and all these different titles, and I think they said they'd have movies until like 2048 or some crazy thing like that. So yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm interested in seeing that. I mean, I'll definitely watch it, because the original Spaceballs had a special place for me, because when it first came out, it was funny, and it's spoofing Star Wars and everything like that. So I totally appreciate it, but it's not a movie that I've seen like over and over and over. I saw it like whenever it was on, whatever, when I was at a friend's house and when it was on HBO or something like that. But I don't even think I own a copy of it on DVD. Maybe I don't think I do. So the thing, my concern with this new movie is it going to be funny? Because like during the panel, I think it was the writer, I forgot his name, but he, it was a letter from his dad, Bill Pullman. I think Bill Pullman is, and he's like reading all this stuff about family and everything, and I didn't think it, personally for me, Mr. Grumpy Pants, I didn't think it was funny. You can see people next to him are laughing, but you kind of have to go along with it. And maybe it's funnier if you're there and, people were laughing. So I'm concerned, will I find the movie funny? Because, as I selfishly just think of myself, because sometimes I'm a little picky. I will say with like the invite, there was a couple times I laughed out loud, and I was like, whoops, because there's other people. I wasn't really like a laugh; it was like more like a snort, like caught me off guard. And it still cracks me up. It's so immature, and it makes me laugh just think about it. But we'll see. So I don't know about that. Oh, there's also going to be, since I've been talking about comic books, DC has a few books coming out. There's a new Demon book coming out. I'm not a huge Demon fan, so that doesn't mean anything. I'm probably just a ignorant whatever dork. The guy writing and drawing it, I don't know who that is. Let's see, I can tell you. James Herron. I don't know who that is. I'm going to assume James Herron is someone. Let's see, written and drawn by James Herron, who did Ultra Mega. Why do I not know what that is? So I don't know. I mean, this could be super cool. But the thing is, I'm just not a big Etrigan fan. He's fine. He doesn't really mean anything to me. What I am excited for is Jonah Hex and the Shadow of Death. This is going to be a 6-issue series written and drawn by Michael Walsh. I love Michael Walsh. He's such a cool guy. He's such a kind guy. And he's done the Mystery Art Challenge before. So I'm so grateful, appreciative of that. And Jonah Hex, here's the thing. I'm actually excited for a cowboy comic, old timey, whatever. And a lot has to do with when Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti were doing the Jonah Hex series, which lasted forever. I mean, not forever, but there's like a lot. They did such a great job that I was actually invested in this, where I never cared about Jonah Hex before. And they just made me interested, and it was just really weird. And that's all it takes is good writing. They got a lot of different artists, for the different story arcs or whatever. They got Darwin Cook sometimes, which is amazing and sad to think about. But so whatever this is, 6 issues, I'm there, because if it's Michael Walsh, I will read and support anything that he does, because he's such a great guy. And then they announced some other stuff, which I don't have much information about this. Like, I don't know what these are going to be or how long or anything like that. But there's going to be a Vixen series by Stephanie Williams and Kari Randolph. So that's Stephanie Williams. She's doing a great job. And Kari, he's another guy. He's a nice guy. He's done some mystery art challenges. So, he's cool. I appreciate that. There's going to be a Static comic by Cody Ziegler and Diego Orlo-Tegu. And then there's going to be a Shadow of the Bat by Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez. Javier Rodriguez, he's got to like him. But Shadow of the Bat, it's like, do we really need another Batman comic? So we'll see. I mean, it's a interesting cover that we see. See who did this cover? Is this Javier? Because it's got like some neon green. So interesting. But the thing is, because we got the Matt Fraction Batman, we got Detective Comics. I guess the Matt Fraction Batman's taking place at a regular Batman comic, right? Because we had Hush, that was really weird. So maybe there's only 2 Batman comics, because Absolute Batman, that's a different thing. So we'll see about that. I haven't read anything about it. I haven't looked anything, but my buddy told me, he's like, there's gonna be a Batman and Absolute Batman comic. I'm like, really? But he's like, it's not versus. It's supposed to be like, what or something like we had like Batman and the Batman Who Laughs, Joker Who Laughs, Batman Who Laughs. Thank goodness the Batman Who Laughs or whatever, Batman Who Laughs. Thank goodness he's gone. So I don't know. We'll see about that. But the last thing to talk about. So I mentioned earlier, unless I edited it out, is Lanterns. So we got the Lanterns trailer, and I have to say, I was super skeptical. I'm still a little skeptical about one thing, and you probably wouldn't know what it is. I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but it looks cool. It looks like it's weird because Hal and John, they're they're supposed to be intergalactic space cops or whatever, and they're investigating things on Earth. Are there potential aliens on Earth, which kind of makes it a little interesting that if there's aliens posing as humans or whatever, are they threatening anything? What's going on there? But the part that's concerning is like, what the heck is going on between John and Hal? Because Hal is kind of like training John. But then there is a scene, as my concern is Hal going to see Sinestro? Because then he goes and visits Sinestro, like in a science cell or whatever. I don't know if they're going to call it that. He's like in a lockup or whatever. And, Sinestro's like, is he your protege or whatever? Or is he going to replace you? And that's kind of how it feels like what might happen. Now, because I think there was a rumor that like Hal Jordan's dying in the first episode or something like that. Because if that's the case, man, I am going to be pissed. Because one of the other things that at the panel, the showrunner Chris Mundy, he mentioned he revealed, or he talked about Laura Linney is going to be playing a Guardian, and what he said is she has a lot to say to John about the role of being Green Lantern. So the way he said that, because then he's like, oh, no, I'm not going to say anything else because people are going to get mad at me here or whatever on the panel. But when the role of being Green Lantern, I don't know if he meant it like that, because it should be about the role of being a Green Lantern. Because obviously there's going to be other Green Lanterns. Guy Gardner is going to make an appearance. He's in the trailer and everything like that. But I just worry that is something going to happen to Hal, and then John's going to take his place, because that would just be such a waste of character. And I don't care about heroic death or revenge or tragic death, sacrifice, or it's like, no, like, screw that. I mean, I almost like swore, but I don't want that. That's just the stupidest thing. It's like that is like so lazy that you have to use a character's death to drive another character, to either inspire them or for revenge or out of guilt or whatever. It's like, no, screw that. Just write good characters. And if you want to do something to Hal, have him get kidnapped, have him lose the ring, have him get locked up, have him get put in a coma or the stasis or alternate dimension, just whatever. There's so many other things that you can do if you want to take him off the board and give Jon Stewart a time to shine, whatever. But just don't kill him. And maybe I'm just overreacting over nothing, but man, put my foot down. Do not kill Hal Jordan. That's going to be just the stupidest thing. I love Kyle Chandler. Is he like a huge household name? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would know him, especially like, people like me, whatever, and anyone who watched Friday Night Lights and loved that. I mean, that was such an amazing show. And I joked about Early Edition, but, that was back in the day. My wife and I watched that show all the time. I don't know why. But why would you cast it? And maybe that's something like, he's like, it's like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, oh, small commitment? Great, awesome. Yeah, I'll just do my scenes, whatever, and I'm out of here. Oh, man, it looks cool, but I'm going to change my tune if they kill him. I'm going to be so pissed. I'm going to be so disappointed. Be let down. It's like, yeah, there's absolutely no reason to kill him off. August 16th. So that is it. So like I said, I don't know if there's any more news that's like happening right now as I'm recording or in the bid or whatever, but I'm just going to call it. We'll talk more about anything that comes up next week, most likely, unless it's something humongous and I'll do another edit, but that is going to be the news for the week. All right, with comic books, I don't know if there's a whole lot that came out. Usually, because San Diego, it seems like a lot usually comes out. But at I didn't read anything at like Mad Cave or anything. And it's like I want to read Dark Horse and IDW, but there's like nothing that's. I mean, let me know if there's something I should be reading, because I look at the titles and nothing jumps out at me, and there's a couple things I want to get caught up on something killing the children, because that issue 49 came out this week. Friggin' 49. I think the last issue I read was like 20 something. I am so insanely behind, and that bothers me because that was like such a cool series. I have no idea what's going on. I need to just take like a vacation from life and just sit and read and get caught up someday. So yeah, let me know if there's something I should be reading. I'll try to get caught up. Or I always say, I always suggest just jump in. And because a lot, like back at the Comic Vine days, people were like, "Oh, I want to read X-Men. Where should I start?" I'm just like, just start reading. And there's going to be reference to things before, but I don't know. I just feel like it's easy just to try to stay current, and then at the same time read some back issues or trades as you can. Because if someone says like, "Oh, you really should read this first, or read this, or go back 7 months, or do this," then you're just going to get like further behind, and maybe that doesn't make sense. But it's like you're going to get further behind with the current stuff. And while you might be a little confused, comics do such a great job because they understand that every comic is potentially someone's first issue, so they have to do stuff to kind of have it make sense. So at Image, there's Void Rivals 32, and I haven't read that. I have no idea what's going on in there, but I know it's part of the Energon universe. G.I. Joe Real American Hero 117. That I normally do read, but I missed it this week. I need to pick that up. I need to check that out. And then so I didn't read anything at Image. Terminal #1 came out. That's by Robert Kirkman and Joe Casey. I'm not sure who does art. I can't see on this thumbnail that I'm looking at. Universal Monsters: Blood of the Wolfman. Joshua Williamson did that. I didn't see that either. Yeah, and then that was it. So let's just jump over to Marvel. So we had Amazing Spider-Man 33, which is also legacy number 997. So we're getting close to issue 1000. This one, I'm still wondering like what the deal is with this Cormac guy. He's Cormac, what's his name? Cormac Crane. He invites Peter, Aunt May, and her, I forget her boyfriend's name, but they're like living together. So it's like, wow, Aunt May. But yeah, so he invites them over to his place, and it turns out, he's got quite a bit of money, and that Peter is supposed to go too. So Cormac knows Peter's secret from the Torment story arc, and as they're about to get Cormac Mac, as he goes by, I'm pretty sure he like rented like a limo to take them over or whatever. And as they're about to get in, like some sirens go by, so then he knows Spider-Man's got to go do what he's got to do. So he tries to make excuses, but Aunt May's boyfriend can't stand Peter because he thinks he's just a big flake and he's just like super selfish and everything like that. Peter goes off, and then we see there's a Damage Control. He meets this Agent Griffin, who's working for Damage Control, and they're kind of taking an initiative, I guess, where they're like on these flying jetpacks and stuff like that, and they're like because a jack-o'-lantern of all people is like doing some stuff, and so it's they're kind of not necessarily being like a police force. So Peter's or Spider-Man's a little concerned by that, but that could be a good thing. I don't know. I mean, when damage control should be a good thing, but when you got the big corporate, it always seems like something sketchy is gonna happen. So we'll see about that. And then Peter also, he visits his boss because there's stuff going on and like stuff with her kid and everything like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's the deal with this Damage Control connection, and I feel like something's up with Cormac. He seems too good to be true. I hope I'm wrong, Captain Marvel, Dark Past, number 4. So we got more, Carol's stuff with her dad and her brothers, whatever, and all this stuff. And it's good. I feel like I miss it. I realize I don't really know Carol's like full history. We've seen. I know I've read other stuff before, but it's just So there's just a lot going on here. But I'm digging it. So it's good. Gambit Wanted number 1. At first I was like, wait, Gambit's got a series, and I was like, oh, Chris Claremont's writing this. So then I was like, this must not be in continuity, and it's not. It's shortly after his first appearance, where he's with like little Ro, as he calls her, or Aurora Storm. Basically, when he and little Aurora go to the X-Men, they kind of offer for him to join and everything, but then he goes back to Louisiana and has some stuff, deals with the kids there, taking care of them or watching out for them, for the other kids and stuff like that. But then I think he's on the cover of the second. Yeah. So if you've looked at the solicit or whatever, you know who Gambit's going to come up against. But in this issue, he has a run-in with someone, because when he first sees him like out of costume, he kind of picks up some vibe, like there's something up, but then he finds out later. So that's an interesting pairing, matchup, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they've ever fought before, and I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll see where that's going to go, because it's not over. There is Godzilla Conquers a Multiverse number 1. I don't even know. I'm so tempted. I was like, what the heck does that even mean? But I didn't read that. There's Imperial Guardians. I flipped through it. This is number 5. The only reason I flipped through it, because you know me, I don't really like, it's like old-timey stuff and cosmic Marvel stuff. I struggle with both of those genres, or whatever you want to call them. This team, the Imperial Guardians is a weird matchup, pairing, whatever. But on the cover, you got friggin' Death's Head. I'm like, man, I love Death's Head. But it wasn't quite enough because I started flipping through, and it's like, I have no idea what is going on here. So, but I don't know what it is about Death's Head. There's something, it was from those Marvel UK comics in the 80s when I came across those. I'm just like, I thought he was so cool. We have Moonstar number 5. Not reading that. That cover is kind of interesting because she's holding a sword, or someone's holding it. It almost looks like an evil Danny's holding a sword, because there's a red eye, and there's a reflection on the blade of Danny, a Moonstar. So, but it almost looks like the blade is see-through, but it's not. We have Moon Knight number 6. So interesting cover. I feel like they don't exploit what's happening as well as they should. We just have Moon Knight and Blade on the cover. It's like, okay, it's kind of cool. Then, kind of back to back, ready to fight. Moon Knight's got his, what do you call them, truncheons? Whatever, his battle staves, sticks, whatever. And Moon Knight's got like 2 sharp stakes in his hand. So, they're about to lay the hammer down or whatever. But they're not the only ones in this. If you read the last issue, Moon Knight goes to Clea and everything, and basically it's like we have to put together, Midnight Suns. This is a Midnight Suns comic, and I know there are a lot of people that love Midnight Suns. They're just like so into it, and I was always just like whatever. But it's cool to see who is gathered. And I don't know if it's Clea that mentioned, because she's like, the thing to remember, this is not Midnight Sun's not a team. So it's not like there's a set roster and like different individuals are chosen, and obviously different people with connections in the Midnight Sun's neighborhood and everything. So I'm actually excited for that. So I want to see like more of what's going to happen. We had Spider-Man: The Long Way Home number 2. So this is a Jonathan Hickman, Adam Kubert story. So this is a totally different continuity, because it's like no one knows who the Hulk is. And the Punisher, he's like into Marine still or whatever. He has a call sign of the Punisher, so he hasn't gone through all the stuff that he's gone through. But he's still like the Punisher, badass Punisher. And Spider-Man's been contacted by S.H.I.E.L.D. to help them out, which seems a little weird. So it's like, where's Spider-Man in his career here? I mean, obviously they know who he is in order to ask him to be the muscle on this job. And in the first issue, they went off because there's, who's it, AIM. They had a cosmic cube, and Hulk is after it, and Punisher ends up with it. S.H.I.E.L.D. wants Spider-Man to get it, so you got this race to get it, whatever, and Hulk is just being vicious. Yeah, it's interesting, but with this issue, it's still, I hate to admit it, while stuff is happening, being set up, it wasn't as bombastic as I would have liked, and maybe just for me, it's like Hickman and Kubert. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be amazing. So maybe I kind of had high expectations. The first issue was interesting. I was a little curious, a little confused. Like, wait, what's going on here? Because I didn't realize it was not in continuity. Whatever. Not that it should matter, but it's kind of, it helps to get your mindset into what you're going for. Because if you're like, this is out of continuity, but here's these cool characters, here's these cool creators. Okay, yeah, lets me know that anything goes type of thing, and we quickly see that. But it was a little weird in the beginning. So I guess I would have wanted a little more. I mean, like I said, some stuff does happen, but yeah, it was more of a setup. I mean, next issue is probably going to be like bonkers. We had Uncanny X-Men number 32. This was okay. It's this is the X-Men team. All the kids are in Louisiana. There's like a school dance, but there's like an alien invasion, and then there's Brood invasion. I'm not really clear, and I don't know if we're supposed to know. I don't know if I missed it, but it's like, we don't know what these aliens are here. Are they, because they have like pods. They don't speak. They don't speak Earth or whatever. And I don't even know if they can hear. And they have these pods with like air in them, like cells, like, so are they planning on kidnapping Earthlings, or are they after the Brood? Because I'm not really sure who's after who, whatever, because like the X-Men have been fighting these armored aliens, but it's like maybe they're really after the Brood, and I don't know what's going on. But it's also weird because they keep going on and on about these kids. Like Gambit says stuff and Wolverine stuff. Oh, I never thought I'd love these little critters as much as I do, and all this. It's like it's weird. It's great that they are taking these kids under their wings and helping them out because they have nowhere to go and all this. But it's like they've done this with the New Mutants in the past, and Wolverine's, he's got, he had Kitty Pryde, he had Jubilee, he's always taking these kids under his wings, except for his own. What about Laura? What about what's his name? A hero? Because he does, apparently Daken is what did he say? Derogatory or race? I don't know if he said it was racist. It was an insult, apparently. In X-Force last week, he said that. But it's just weird how they're like on about these kids. Oh man, these kids are so amazing and all this. And I don't know. For me, I don't care for them, and that's because I haven't been reading every issue, so I don't have an attachment to them. I mean, we're 32 issues in, so that's good. But what's weird is I thought it was last or 2 issues ago or whatever where they mentioned that Pietro, Quicksilver, and Monet were gonna kind of take over, or kind of be there, because Rogue and Gambit were supposed to be leaving, but they're still there. Rogue was somewhere else; she was doing something, but she comes back, and a spoiler, they finally tell the kids that they have to go. And I guess what I didn't realize is why, but Gambit is dealing with stuff, and I don't know if it has anything to do with that dragon eye or crystal, whatever thing he took, but there's something, he's dealing with some stuff. So because they're like, we need to go see an exorcist now, but the kids are mad that they're leaving, and maybe we didn't hear the whole conversation, but it's, they never said we're gonna come back, because they're like, oh, take us with you, or something like that, but they have to go do what they got to do. But they never said, hey, we'll be back as soon as we can. And the kids, because they have nothing, they've been left and abandoned and all betrayed or whatever, and so now they feel like these two adults that they care about, they're leaving. So it's weird. And then Quicksilver and Monet are supposed to like step in. It's like they're gonna be so resistant to them. They don't know them from Adam X. But Wolverine's still going to be there, even though he's dealing with his stuff in his comic, and Nightcrawler's still going to be there. So I don't know, it's weird. It feels like, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, and it to me it feels like we're watching like an X-Men series, and the two actors playing Rogue and Gambit are leaving, their contracts up, or they have other obligation or whatever. And so they're being replaced with two other actors who play Quicksilver and Monet. It just feels like, because why wouldn't you keep that? I mean, the only reason I would read this comic is for Rogue and Gambit. And, Wolverine and Nightcrawler is cool. Oh, Jubilee's there too. Forgot about, but, she's cool. But it's weird that you got these two big characters, they're leaving, and it feels like, they have some other obligation, but they do. But then, that being said, the cover to the next issue, we have them on there. So it's not like there's going to be some other mini series dealing with it. Maybe their story, whatever Gambit's dealing with, is going to still be here. I don't know. But I'm so out of the loop. So yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Speaking of Wolverine 24, he's still dealing with the fact that he doesn't, his healing factor is almost gone. It was being stolen. There's nanites in his body, and he's fighting this other guy, this doctor that kind of took them and everything, but he can barely control the stuff that he has because he's got other whatever stuff in him. And there's this big, was it a post or some other creature thing, but he can't really control it. It's a big defense mechanism. So while Wolverine's trying to, we need to reverse this, whatever, all this, and then Alpha Flight attacks, and they're being major jerks, which, it's Alpha Flight has a hard enough time, for getting people to like him, and then you have them come in and act like this. It's not going to help their image. People are going to be like, you jerks. God, that's what I'm doing. And I respect Alpha Flight. I want to like them more than I do, but this isn't helping. Wonder Man number 5. This is the conclusion. Jerry Duggan, Phil Noto. It was okay. I mean, despite the creative team that I enjoy, I don't know, the story. I mean, the story is a little more grounded. It's more about Simon, in Hollywood and stuff like that, and there's stuff going on with his agent and the murders, and it was fine, good conclusion, but yeah, I can't say that I loved it, but I can appreciate what they're doing. Then we had X-Men, the Hellfire Murder instead of the Hellfire Gala. So this was Sebastian Shaw. Basically, he's like, I'm gonna have the big gala, whatever, and then invites a bunch of people, and there's, as it says, there's a big murder. So what's weird, they kind of treat this differently, because with the way they've done the galas in the past, everyone has been invited, and they make this big to do about it, because we've had Iron Man there, we had Spider-Man there, all these heroes go, and they're all dressed up super fancy and everything like that. But here, the way it is there's these scanners at the door, and it basically makes a costume for you based off of what it thinks would be appropriate for them or fitting for them. And, all their powers are being negated and stuff like that. There's inhibitors and stuff like that. But there's members of the 3K are there, the evil X-Men's enemy or whatever. And it's weird because Cyclops and Psylocke have this plan. They're about to do something during, which seems a little out of line. And I'm like, wait, did I miss something here? And then we got Wolverine here and Rogue's here and Gambit's. It's like okay, this just seems weird with what's going on in the other books. And like Kitty Pryde's here, I almost forgot. It's like, what is Kitty Pryde and Emma? What happened in their book? Their book got canceled. So, but then there's a murder, and then the question is like, who did it? It must be someone there. And, there's also questions, who was murdered? I don't know how I feel. I mean, you know me with comic book deaths. I'm like, what's the point of it? You're going to kill someone. One, don't kill someone that is cool, someone that I like personally, because it's all about me. But, if you kill someone with potential, because sometimes they do it because, you want it to have a bigger impact. If you kill someone that no one cares about, it's not a big deal. So you want to have like, oh, there's high stakes or, whatever, this could happen. You never know. But if it's someone who's cool that people might like, or someone who does have potential, that seems like a waste. And I don't care if you're doing it to set up a story. I don't know, it seems silly. And then on top of it, are you going to actually keep them dead? Because we don't have like the resurrection process from Krakoa or whatever. So if you kill someone, does this mean they're really dead? How are you going to bring them back? Is it going to be some trickery or whatever? Because, there's always some way. And then that just makes it even worse. Because anytime someone's dead, they tend to come back somehow. So it was just kind of weird. And then, when we find out, like, who did the killing, it's like, wait, was it this or was it this? I don't know. So, that was... and it's just like, I get why, I guess, but I don't know. I don't really see the point. And it just seemed weird. Over at DC, we had Detective Comics 1111. I've been really enjoying this. So Tom Taylor and Mikhail Janin. It's so weird, but Batman, Green Arrow, and Black Canary, I love this trio. And, we have these weird flashbacks, which I'm assuming, the character that they were with is totally made up just for this. But it feels like, it could be something. And so I'm really enjoying this story. It's really, really fascinating. We had Absolute Superman 21. I'm not reading that. Absolute Wonder Woman. I think that was also 21. So, Wonder Woman's like is she in hell? Or she's somewhere. She's trying to rescue her mom who's taken Cersei, and it's cool. And then there's stuff with Barbara Minerva, and like, is she going to become Cheetah? So there's just cool stuff happening here. Superman number 40. I'm trying to think. Actually, I think you should read. Which one should have been first? Well, I don't know. Remember, because there's Superman 40 and there's Action Comics 1100. I mean, they're both good. At first, I was like, I'm digging Superboy Prime, which I'm surprised. And maybe it's Joshua Williamson writing, whatever. Dan Moore does the art. And I'm not crazy about Manchester Black, and and the fact that he died, he's back, he's got these powers, and he's trying to break reality and everything, trying to get Superboy Prime to change things and everything like that. It's a little annoying. It's like how souped up Manchester Black is. He's so powerful doing all this stuff, but there's some interesting things. And then where it gets to the point, it's like, well, what is like the plan for Superboy Prime? Is he going to stick around? Because they're trying to establish him, having like a civilian guise, having a job, with potential supporting cast. He works at a comic store, which is like fitting for him. He has like a potential love interest, and he's working with Lois, and so there's a potential there, but I don't know, where they're going to go with that. So we'll see. Then Action Comics 1100. I feel like it's been a while since the last issue, but I didn't miss anything because this is still picking up in the past where Superboy, Superman is Superboy, and there's what's the dude, a time traveling dude who wants to deal with him, and we have Martian Manhunter, we have Booster Gold, we have Mary Marvel. They're trying to help him out. My issue with this is they got to do something to erase Superboy's memories, because then what they're going to do is like, well, we need to track down Superman, and he's somewhere in the time stream, so let's use his younger version to try to anchor and whatever, find stuff like that. So along the way, Superboy, Clark as a kid, he's seeing these different moments where he's like, oh, who's that lady? She's kind of hot for an older lady, talking about Lois and just different things like that. He's like, oh, I get a dog and he can fly. So he's like finding out like all this stuff about himself. And he's like, oh, is that Lex? He's like, I haven't seen him. He used to live in Smallville, but he moved. So it's like you can't give him all. So somehow he has to forget everything, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And I'm sure that's what they're going to do, but it's just, and Booster's like, oh, well, whatever, it's fine. And, John Martian Manhunter, he's keeps like trying to correct him, stop him, but yeah. So we'll see where that's going to go. We also had Dark Knights of Steel. Wait, Dark Knights of Steel Special? I don't know what that is. Was that, because I don't think it's the second issue. I feel like that just came out. There's Justice League Unlimited. I didn't read that because I haven't been reading it, and I don't know if it's in the middle of a story arc or something. There's Green Arrow. I don't know. Looking at the little tiny thumbnail, number 37, I don't know. Is that Kyle? And that can't be Harley. I don't know. Maybe I should have checked that out. There's Zatanna, number 4. The Flash, number 35. I'm so happy that I'm reading The Flash again, because it's been so long. So Ryan North is writing this. Gavin Goodry, it looks like, did the art. I don't know how I feel about Wally's new power. So he's well, I forget what he calls it. But he's basically getting little glimpses into the future where he can kind of see what's going to happen. And he can go and try to stop bad things from happening. Like oh, someone's going to slip on a banana peel, so I better go and make sure they're in a different path, or there's a garbage can for the banana peel, or so he's able to do all this stuff. That's a lot of, I mean, that really levels him up, and it's like almost too much. But I mean, obviously they got to do something with it, because this is like too much power. But it is interesting because like he shows Linda, and he takes her. There's like a bank robbery, and like Boomerang is going to go in there. So he sets all this stuff up. So basically, Boomerang fails without him having to actually do stuff. So it's kind of fun and interesting. So yeah, I'm digging it. So Ryan North, he's writing a really good, kind of goofy Wally, goofy but also smart with the things that he's doing. And that is all I read. There's what's Superman? I forget what book that was. There's a Swamp Thing. There's Harley Quinn. But that is it. That's all I read. That is going to be comic books for the week. Okay, my adventures with Superman, season 3, episode 6, Party Animals. I just got the title. I didn't even think about it. I was like, Party Animals. I was like, they didn't. So last week's was the death of Superman, and spoiler, I'm assuming you've either watched the episode or you've listened to last week. It wasn't quite the literal death of Superman, but Superman no longer has his powers. He basically used his powers up because he was like coated with kryptonite, fighting kryptonite, because Jonathan Kent was like in danger, fighting Cyborg, Superman, and all that. So he doesn't have his powers now. He's going to get him back. He just needs to recharge. He just does, but he doesn't know that because he's still early in his career, I'm assuming. So we'll see. Now, what we do find out when this episode starts up, it starts off 1 month ago, and Superman's talking about how he's like, something happened my powers during the fight. I can't be Superman for you anymore. And then Jimmy kind of like was like, Clark, like, and he like snaps out of it. He's like, are you okay? And Clark's like, yeah. And he takes a picture of Jimmy and Lois. All three of them are dressed up like in suits, and Lois is in a gown. And the screen then says the present. So Jimmy suggests, he's like, why don't we take one with all of us? And he's like, no. He's like, you two are the ones nominated for the award tonight. And Lois is like, well, you were too. And Clark's like, technically Superman was nominated. Lois and Jimmy kind of like glance at each other. And Clark's like, but it's fine. I was like, I'm fine. A car pulls up or honks up, but it's Steve Lombard. It's actually his van, his Howling Wolf van or whatever. And, it's Steve. He's just so annoying and everything like that. He's like, good evening, award co-nominees, plus Clark. And he's like, which one of you lucky kids gets to ride up in front with me? And all three of them are like, he's like, just kidding. The back seats for nominees only. He's like, come on, Kent. So they're driving. And he's like, make yourselves comfortable, VIPs. And he's like, back there, you got all-weather floor mats, adjustable protein shake sleeves, and check this. He's like, it's a curtain. it's like Kent and I aren't even here. And then the Clark, he's like, so you think Superman's gonna show up tonight? And Clark's like, I mean, I'm sure he'll try his best to make it. I mean, he definitely wants to be here. He probably misses the city as much as it misses him, probably. So in the back, Jimmy and Lois can hear him. Jimmy sighs. He's like, poor Clark. And she's like, how long does it usually take to open up after your identity's been shattered? And she's like, I'll see if we can talk tonight. And Jimmy's like, speaking of tonight, who's Kara bringing to the gala? So it's been a month, and Kara could have been. He's still playing these games. And Lois is like, oh, you mean like a date? He's like, yeah, a date. She's the most eligible bachelorette in Metropolis. And Lois is like, I don't think she's bringing anyone. She's been full-time Supergirl for the last month. And he's like, wait, are you bringing a date? And Jimmy's like, well, worms. Reach out to me again. She's like, Jimmy. He's like, and as a man of business, I have a contractual obligation to go on one more date tonight. Lois like, you're bringing a date to a gala where Kara is receiving an award? He's like, come on, you've seen Kara on the apps. She's moved on. Lois like, I can't wait till your date turns you into an octopus or a human skyscraper. Or he's like, listen, I have this all under control. Nothing is going to happen tonight. Then at the gala, he's like, you see, Lois, this is a perfectly normal gala with perfectly normal. Then he gets tackled by Flip Johnson. The Daily Planet interns they're being featured tonight. So she's like, Mr. White says that we're your problem now. And she like runs off. Jimmy's like, what? And Perry's off to the side with like a glass of champagne. He raises a toast to Jimmy. Clark's like, it's okay, Jimmy, I got this. And Lois like, but Clark, he's like, it's all right. It's really okay. And he whispers, like, I need something to do. And someone's like, okay, I'm going to, someone starts saying, I don't remember, I think it was Lois. She said she's going to find some, but then the gala attendees start like gasping because Supergirl, like in a gown, she starts floating down. People are applauding and cheering. Jimmy's like mesmerized, and he shakes his head and he giggles like, she's moved on. Lois like, I don't see a date. And Jimmy's like, and then Lois like, hey, Kara, over here. And then she's like, Lois Lane, Jimmy Flamebird. And she floats down like the red carpet towards him. And she nearly gets hit by this big like limo van pulling up like onto the red carpet. It's ridiculous, but it's a show or whatever. People like swoop in front of Kara to see like who's in this big limo. And Kara like floats up. This woman in a pink gown steps out and kind of like poses. And she's like, oh, Monsieur Olsen, bonsoir, chérie. And she kisses like both his cheeks, and he's like, wow. And he like chuckles. He's like, hello, you must be Princess Marina Maru. Maru. She's like, yes, please, James, call me Marina. And Kat like kind of like jumps over, climbs over the limo van, whatever, with her mic. She's like, Kat Grand, Daily Planet, is James Olsen your date tonight? And they start going down like the red carpet, and you can see Kara's like kind of like hurt or something like that. She's like, Jimmy brought a date, and then she frowns. Jimmy brought a date, and we get the intro. So Lois is like, that's Jimmy's worms date. And Clark's like, well, Jimmy's always had boyish charm. And she's like, boyish charm? Anyways, I hope we get a chance to talk tonight, Clark. And then he hears like some commotion with like the new kid. And he's like, sorry, Lois, but I got to go get those rascals. And he's like, come here, hey, come on. And there's like a cat screeching or something like that. And he like goes off. Lois, and she finds, Vicky Vale's like standing behind her. She's like, Lane. And she's like, Vicky. Because, they got this rivalry thing going on. And Vicky's like, I can't believe you turned down a job with me to stay with your deadweight boyfriend. So much promise wasted. And she's like, Lois is like, I don't need to work for you to be a great reporter, Vicky. And by the way, we're nominated for the same category. So I think I'm doing just fine. And Vicky's like, you mean co-nominated with the Olsen kid? You can't even win an award without one of your little boy toys at your side. Lois like scoffs. And then Vicky's like, let's find out what you're made of, shall we, Lane? Whoever walks away with the biggest scoop tonight wins. And Lois is like, oh, you're on. You talk a big game, Vicky, but everyone knows all that really counts is what you can do. And Clark's like dealing with the 4 news kids, and he hears like everything she just said. Like, so it really depends on what you can do. So then, Clark carrying two of the kids and holding Flip's hand, and the other kids kind of just like walking behind him. He goes up to Lois, who is like grumbling about Vicky. She can't believe it. She used to be obsessed with her. And she notices Clark, and she's like, is everything okay? And he's like, oh, yeah, great. Everything's great. And he like walks past her with all the kids, and they go inside, and she just like stares at him because she's aware, obviously, something's bothering him. So elsewhere, a kid walks out of an ice cream shop, a different kid. He goes to taste ice cream, the scoop just like falls off the cone right away. And Bizarro's like, I can help you. So he's actually working inside. There's like a sliding window, so he opens it. He gives a kid like a new cone with like 3 scoops, and the kid like laughs and waves goodbye, and Bizarro smiles. It's weird because he's Bizarro, but he's not. I mean, he's not like weird. Like, I shouldn't say weird. No offense, Bizarro, comic book Bizarro, but his face is like normal. Okay. Then Bizarro, he's like, I don't know, he's doing something. I don't know if he's off work, but he's outside, and he hears like a news anchor like on a Jumbotron. Metropolis has been missing its hero for over a month now. Supergirl is expected to be at the humanitarian gala tonight to accept her award, but will Superman be there to join her? And so he looks at the screen. He's like, he's like, my friend. Inside the gala at a table, Kara sits next to Marina and says, Jimmy, introduce me to your date, who you brought to the gala where I am receiving an award. He like chuckles nervously. Kara, and then Marina like leans forward and cuts Jimmy off. Supergirl, you and Superman are greatly admired, even in Markova. So she's from Markova. So that says something right there. Because her name, maybe we're supposed to know who her name is, but I didn't recognize it. But I know what's going on in Markova. Metropolis is fortunate enough to have you as its guardian. And she's like, thank you, princess. But it is Superman who deserves all the credit. And then Jimmy likes like, you deserve the credit. You saved the city. And I know the city's confusing and doesn't always know how it feels, but everybody in the city really, really cares about you, Kara. And Marina like leans forward in front of Kara. James Olsen, you are so kind to your platonic friend. And then she like leans over and rests her head like on his shoulder. And he's like, I'm just a... And then he's cut off when the lights turn down and the host of the gala starts talking. The host is Silver St. Cloud. So it's like, okay, I like how they like bring in, the fact they got like Vicky Vale and Silver St. Cloud. So it's interesting choices being made here. But it is kind of, what is Jimmy talking about that Kara is the one that saved Metropolis? It's like Superman, he lost his powers for that. John like almost lost his life. And I mean, whatever. So, meanwhile, a shipment arrives like at the loading docks, whatever, at the museum. And then one museum, like security dude, he's like in a suit. He bends down to check something like that. But then he gets like knocked out by a dude with like a big like tech rifle. And then there's the lady on the other side in the suit, she gets knocked out too. So they get dragged away. And then the two dudes, they shed their like delivery suits, jumpsuits. And then their radio, like, this is Fox, this is Vulture. Or something like that. One guy is Vulture, but he radios some guy who's like at the balcony in the gala, like, and they're carrying like these big high-tech rifle guns thing. Kara's like glaring at Princess. She's like walking her fingers up Jimmy's arm. Clark like noticed to clear his throat. He's like, Kara, can you believe these are the bones of a blue whale, Earth's largest living animal? Because they're like in a museum. I don't know if I said that. And he's like, Flip, why don't you tell? And then the kids are all gone. He's like, uh-oh. He's like, Flip, then Jimmy's like, hey, Clark, won't you miss Clark? He's like, don't worry. I'll be back before Kara's award. I promise. So he walks off, and then Lois like stares at him. So then we see Bizarro. He lands on the roof of the museum, and he look, he's in his costume, whatever, and he looks in the skylight as Silver announces, Superman and Supergirl. He smiles when Kara steps up to the mic. She's like, thank you all. Kal-El, Superman, wishes he could be here tonight, but in his absence, I humbly accept this award for us both. I can see why Superman loves your Earth, although I am still new to this planet. It is already full of people I love. And she looks at the table, and she sees Clark's not there. Lois, raises her hands, and she kind of shrugs, shaking her head, I don't know. And she's like, and friends I can count on. Jimmy's, hand is raised, and then Marina, pulls his hand down so she can put her hand on top of his on the table. So one of the thieves is on a computer. He radios the other guy. He says the exits are locked and alarms are disabled. Local feeds redirected, ready to broadcast at your word. So it's okay, what is this about? At the table, Vicky comes and sits in Clark's chair with her recorder. Princess Maru, you're so outspoken in your beliefs. Do you fear public back? And Lois is glaring. Do you fear public backlash or even persecution for your endorsement of free expression? And Princess I have received several threats, yes, but I always take the necessary precautions. And then Lois notices a few armed dudes up in the balcony, or it's a second level, whatever. And there's a couple off to the side, on their level in the big banquet room. And she looks at the rifle that one of them's carry. Vicky loudly asks, "Leaving already, Lane?" And Lotus me. She's that's what you sound like. That was funny. The news kids are kind of goofing around in the dark, with the flashlight. Flip stumbles, drops the flashlight, and then it points right at the canisters that just arrived. And they hear one of the guards groaning, and he's the dude's tied up next to the canister. Flip's I think we need to tell someone about this. But one of the big thugs with a rifle's behind them. He's like who? Clark, meanwhile, he's calling out to Flip. He's Flip, kids. And then he's oh, it'd be really great to have superheroing right about now. Then he hears, the closed caption says, disembodied voices whispering indistinctly. So I'm are there ghosts here? What the heck is going on here? So he changes directions. Flip, stop being creepy. And then he can see his breath, and then there's a cold gust of wind in his face, almost like wind and snow. He's what in the? And he extends his hand, and then there's a little flame in his hand, and then there's more voices, indistinct voices whispering, and then I don't know if there's a doorway, a portal, or if it's just part of the museum. But then there's more flames start falling down. The whole place changes red, and more flames, and then he hears Flip screaming behind him, and he turns around and everything's back to normal. So it's wait a minute, what was that about? So we don't get answers here, but maybe next episode, because I don't read the titles or any descriptions or anything. So we'll have to wait. Lois is talking to the dude with the rifle in the banquet room. She's so you have absolutely no opinions on the growing armed presence here tonight? Do you have any thoughts on anything? And the dude's just standing there, ignoring her. And so still nothing. She's fine. Who's in charge here? And Silver's that would be me. And Lois oh, hi, Silver, and kind of chuckles. She's I just wanted to, have you seen? And Silver's I'm a big fan of your work, Lois. You're a terrific reporter. And she's oh, wow, thank you. And Silver's but these interrogations are kind of bringing down the vibe. You know what I mean? The added security is Princess Maru's private detail. That's all. And Lois I'm sorry, Silver. I'm in this stupid competition with Vicky tonight. And then Silver's tonight's awards aren't enough for you two? Lois is okay, I guess I'm always in a stupid competition with Vicky, but I mean, what's enough? And Silver's I don't know, but I do know that if you need an award to tell you that you're enough, you'll never get there. Just do your best. And if you can celebrate whatever that brings you with the people you love, well, that's as much as anybody gets. And she walks off, Lois smiles, and she's wait, where are the people I love? So Clark's running, turns a corner, he finds the kids in front of the dude with the rifle. Flip's it's kind of cute because Flip's standing in front of the other kids, so it's she's trying to protect them. And then Clark steps in front, he's get away from them. The dude points his rifle at Clark, and then Clark suddenly he's my powers. And then it kind of goes in slow motion as the guy starts to pull the trigger. It's are you seriously, you're going to kill this dude and kids? He's pulling the trigger, Clark leaps forward, and then pew! And then it goes black. So there would be a commercial break here if it, because I think it's on Adult Swim, right? So it definitely would be a commercial break there. And the next shot, it's like you see the glasses, like there's blood splattered on the glasses and you like on the floor, and like there's like a foot, and then there's bullet casings next to them, and someone picks up the glasses, but it's Clark. Clark picks up the glasses. He has his shirt off and he's like bandaging up his arm, like he got shot in a bicep, and somehow he knocked the guy out. He turns to the kid. He's like, "Is everyone all right? Anybody hurt?" And Flip's like, "You're hurt, Clark." And he's like, "Where's Superman?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, and a door like opens down the hall, and there's like two more the thugs, soldiers, guards, whatever. And he's like, "Come on, we have to go now." And one of the like, "Hey, you!" So Lois is calling out to Clark. Then the first thug dude that was his name's Vulture, even though I don't know why, but he's behind her. They have like animal names, and he radios. He's like, "I got it. This is Vulture. Got another stray." Lois like screams and starts running. She turns a corner and she gets grabbed by the arm and pulled into like a closet, like a storage closet, whatever, by Clark. And the kids are in there, and he tells her, he's like, "Shh." And she's like, "Clark, there's a man." He's like, "Yeah, his friend just shot me." But as Clark's closing the door, Vulture puts his foot in the door. And, then he starts like slamming his body against, trying to open it. Clark's like grunting, to try to keep the door from, because he can't shut it yet. Lois, she got a can of spray, must have been on a shelf or something like that. And she sprays Vulture in the eyes. And then Clark's able to shut the door when the guy like grunts or whatever. So then he's like, "Vulture the fox. I have strays in the hallway." He's like, "I'll take care of them. Confirm when you have hands on the princess." And inside, Lois is like, "Hands on a princess?" So Silver is back on stage, and she's like going to welcome their distinguished keynote speaker, Her Royal Highness Princess Marina Maru of Markova. So a couple guards like walk alongside her. Jimmy starts to say Kara's name, but then Clark calls on Jimmy's watch. He's like, "Jimmy, Princess Maru has a problem. Armed men have broken in, and they're after her." The guards on a balcony, they start to point their rifles at the stage. And she's like, "I'm Princess Marina Maru, but you may call me." And then she tears at the bottom of her gown, and her hair becomes disheveled. "Dr. Poison, I am here to reverse the Anthropocene era, curing our Mother Earth of the disease of humankind." And then over the watch, Lois is like, "Jimmy?" And Jimmy's like, "I guess I have a type." Dr. Poison's like, "And what better place to start this revolution than here at the mausoleum you've created for the animals of Le Monde?" So the guards start like pushing out the purple canisters, and they seem to like separate into more. So I don't know if I don't understand how they work. And Dr. Poison, the princess, holds up a gas mask, and it has like pointy ears at the top. She puts it on. "Prepare to leave on 4 legs or not at all." Purple gas starts like to shoot out of the canisters. The one guest turns into a grizzly bear. This woman like next to him like screams, and then she turns into a fox. But it's like, wait, where did their clothes go? Where did dude's suit go? And the lady, we literally see the lady, she's in a gown, and then she's a fox. There's more screaming, more animals. Kara sees Dr. Poison running up the stairs, so she zips after her. She's like, "You!" And she like grabs her. "Ah, Supergirl, such a pity my poison doesn't work on you, but you have other problems, no?" And she has this bracelet that can like shine an image on the wall. "At this very moment, my henchmen are at the Metropolis Dam, ready to release my poison directly into the city's water supply." But it's like, why doesn't Kara like rip off her gas mask? Maybe I don't think maybe they need Dr. Poison if there's a cure or whatever. But I don't know. And then, "Can you be in 2 places at once?" And Jimmy's on the stairs behind him. "Kara, go save the city. Dr. Poison is my contractual obligation." But then rather than like she could like just flick her in the head or something, just knock her out. But she just like throws her down, and Dr. Poison, she's able to just like run. So she didn't throw her down that hard or anything like that. So she zips out. She's in her Supergirl outfit. Bizarro, he's still watching everything on the roof, and he sees Kara go off. So Vulture, the one guard, he's like kicking the door with Lois and Clark and the kids on the other side. And he's like starting to dent it. Flip's like, asks Clark, she's like, how are you going to stop him? And Vulture, Clark's like standing against the door. Vulture shoots the door, like, puts like 3 huge holes like around. He got like super lucky because the way they drew it, they made it look like the door was kind of thick. And he's like, and Lois like, wait. And then Vulture kicks the door open, and no one's in there. there's a cover to like an air duct like swinging. So I guess they opened it. So how would you even open it? You usually like you need screws. Or I guess sometimes you can pull it, but usually you see there's like screws. So they opened it, got everyone in there like in a blink of an eye. And then the gas starts pouring in from the hallway. So he starts like coughing. So at first I'm like, gee, I wonder what he's going to turn into. Because, his name's Vulture, right? He turns into an alligator. It's like, what? Maybe a crocodile. I don't know the difference. Dr. Poison's running. Jimmy's like covering his mouth. He's behind her. And then they get to this like clear level, whatever. And he asks his watch, any ideas how to stop Dr. Poison? Clark's like, and Lois like, she's your date. Wait, your boyish charm. Use your boyish charm. And Clark's like, I don't think it works like that. Another canister suddenly gets thrown into this room, even though there's no one in there besides Jimmy. It's like, wait, what? And he's like, oh, no. It's like, I don't want to be a wolf again. And he looks at his hands, and I don't know if they're starting to get chubbier or something like that. And he's like, what? The others are still crawling through the air ducts. And then, so Vulture, an alligator, somehow he ends up in front of them, which that doesn't make any sense. He must have gone out, ran down the hall, found another heating duct, and I don't know. He growls, and then he roars, and a voice is like, it's over. So it's like, I was confused at first because his mouth's open. It's like, did the voice come from the alligator? So I guess even though he roars like an alligator, he can also talk somehow. But if like you're animals, how do you have vocal cords that would allow you to talk? Because animals don't. I don't understand, but it's just magic science, I guess. And so he's like over, and Lois like, I thought his name was Vulture. Clark tells the kids like, kids, back up. Dr. Poison yells to get to the chopper. Jimmy calls out. He's like, wait, Princess Maru. And she's like, James. So the smoke's kind of clears, but he's not there. And she looks down. Princess, please listen to me. So he's a turtle with like black hair in his head. And then she like kind of like taps the top of his head to like close his mouth. And she's like, this form suits you, James, but sadly, this must be adieu. And he's like, but didn't you feel our connection? Our animal attraction? And he's kind of like sparkly eyes. She's like, well, the others are still crawling away from the alligator. And Lois like pushes down on the vent. Then she gets on the other side, and she like, because like the opening pushes down. So they're like high up, whatever. And then she gets on the other side, and she calls back. She's like, everyone keep going. And she like raises her arm, and Clark's like, Lois, what are you? Slams her fist down and like dents the vent. And she does it again. And Clark's like, Lois, section's starting to loosen. Then she slams down again. The whole section falls with the alligator. And she turns and reaches out to Clark, but then her section like falls down. She goes into the gas below. And Clark's like, Lois. And then somehow, because I don't know how high they are, it looked like they were really high. Maybe it was just one, I don't know, because maybe it's hard to tell with all the gas smoke or whatever. But then somehow a cat leaps up into the vent. I thought they were like at least 2 stories up, but maybe not. So the cat jumps up, gets on Clark's back, and he's like, are you? And she's like, up here, Smallville. And he's like, cat? And she's like, yeah, keep going. So Dr. Poison holding Jimmy the turtle up. She's like, James, you beautiful fool. You were just a pawn in my world-altering game. A handsome pawn, oui, but a pawn seulement. And he's like, I'm sorry, what was that? I can't understand you because of your gas mask. And she's like, do not think me cruel, James, but I only arranged a date with you to gain access to this event. But now I must shed you like so much snakeskin. And Jimmy's like whispering, so she like gets closer. He's like, but wait, he's like, just one more thing. And then he chomps on the mask and pulls it off her. She screams and drops him. And then her bones start to like crackle, whatever, in the smoke, in the gas. At the dam, Kara zips by, like knocking the men back from the edge with the containers. Then she like heat visions and sets off the gas. The guards like cough. Shark the Fox, Operation Make a Splash has been compromised. At the museum on the roof, there's like a helipad, I guess. Dr. Poison got turned into a fox, I think, or maybe like a dog. I don't know. At first I was like, is it a dog? Is it a cat? I think it's a dog. And she's like on a soldier's shoulders, or guard or whatever. And she's like, Alonzi, Montenent. And Bizarro stands in front of the helicopter with his arms crossed. Bad dog. So I'm assuming it's a dog because he says it's a dog. And then they raise a rifle and he zips down at them. Kara like returns to the museum. She rips open the door and like blows like to blow the gas out. And then there's an explosion up top. And she goes up there. She finds the guards kind of like tied up with something. And then the dog is like in the middle. And Kara's like, huh? Who? Because she's like, who did this? Afterwards, animal guests like line up. And they're able to change back. There's like kind of like a little shower thing set up, and there's like someone in a like scientist suit. So, but it's like weird because you see Vicky goes in. I think she was a horse. She goes in, and then boom, comes out in her gown like immediately. At first, I was like, oh, they have the shower curtain, so when they change, they can get dressed. But no, because she comes out and she's I don't know. Jimmy's like sitting out front on the steps. The princess, she sells a dog. She comes up to him and she's like, James, I am so sorry to have broken your fragile heart. And he's like, don't worry, you didn't. And she's like, there are more sharks in the sea, my delicious pound cake. You will forget our restless rendezvous and someday you will find true love. He's like, I'm already in love with someone else. I've just been really, really stupid about it. And she's like, of course, c'est moi. C'est moi. And he's like, her name is Kara. And Kara was like floating above carrying a pig when he said that. And she scoffed. She's like, whatever makes you feel better, James. And then the scientist puts like a collar and a leash on her. Au revoir. And he like sighs. Lois the cat goes in. She changes. And then she gasps because Silver is like waiting at the exit. She's like, Silver, hi. And Silver's like, Lois, I wanted to congratulate you on your award. She hands her an award. And Lois is like, she's like, I won? And she like gasps again. And Vicky's like nearby and hears. And she's like, thanks, Silver. Silver chuckles. She's like, enjoy the rest of your night, Miss Lane. And Lois like, well, obviously the work itself is its own reward. And she's like, here, Flip, do you want this? And she's like, thanks. And Vicky like kind of storms off in a huff. And then Lois is like, okay, she's gone. Give it back. She's like, oh, it's so shiny. So she acts like she didn't care what she did. Jimmy's like, he's laying on his back on the steps. And then Kara appears over him, scowling. Jimmy Flamebird. And what does Jimmy do? He screams. Because that's what he's always screaming. And she's like, why did you share feelings with Dr. Poison that you would not share with me? He's like, I thought it seemed like you moved on. You were on the apps. You'd been dating people. She's like, no, I wanted to be together. You ran away and played and your stupid Earth games. Then Kal-El became distant and you stopped talking to me. He's like, I thought you just wanted to be friends. And she's like, how can you be my friend if you hide when I need you most? He's like, I'm sorry, Kara. I didn't understand how you felt. She's like, you did not ask. So Clark's standing alone, and then Lois comes up and like hugs. She hugs his injured arm. It's like he's literally got a bandage, like ripped up shirt or whatever, blood like stained on there, and she's like squeezing his arm. And she's like, Clark, we did it. We saved the city. Jimmy and I won the award, and you. He's like, I didn't do anything, Lois. He's like, you saved the kids. Jimmy defeated Dr. Poison. Kara saved the city. All I did was get shot and locked in a closet. Metropolis needed a hero, and all I could give them was Clark Kent. And she's like, hey, I love Clark Kent. And Clark's like, well, he's no Superman. And she's like, Clark, you can't spend the rest of your life comparing yourself to someone you might never be again. He's like, and what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? Lois like hesitates, but she steps closer. But then a purple portal opens beneath Clark, and he like falls through. And she's like, and then one opens beneath Lois, she falls. And then, a little ways away, Jimmy and Kara are on the steps. A big portal opens up underneath them. They both fall through and disappear. And that's the end of the episode. So it's like, wait, what? So this must have something to do with whatever Clark, the indistinct voices, whatever, the wind and the fire. And so I don't know. I have absolutely no idea what the next episode's about. But by the time you listen to this, the episode has probably just aired or is about to air or will air. So we'll have to wait to find out what happens. Okay, then X-Men 97, Season 2, Episode 5, Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs. So this must be like sex lies and videotapes, right? Surprisingly, I've never seen that movie. Because I think, it came out, I was like, this was a sex and video. It was like, what is this? What kind of movie is this? I'm not going to watch this. I'm a kid. So I never saw it. Can't even tell you off the top of my head. It doesn't matter. So it starts off, the intro. So I was like, what are you going to do now with the start? because last time Magneto was like the lead. So Magneto's not there. So it's almost back to like normal, because it starts out, we got, I'm pretty sure it was like Cyclops, Jean, Storm, Wolverine, Morph, Rogue, Beast, Nightcrawler, Bishop, Forge. I don't know if Forge is normally, has he been there before? We got Forge, Professor X. And then with the extra footage, they show like some Team X footage. And, you see like Maverick and Sabretooth, and you see like Moriko and like Lady Deathstrike. So it's like things to come, I guess. So there's some sort of transport flying over the wilderness. It's like some fancy helicopter or whatever. On board, Kane Garrison. He's what was his name? Wasn't his name Weapon X? I was like, why is he called that? He's telling a story to Maverick. Lady Deathstroke and Sabretooth are there too. So like Maverick and Sabretooth are like kind of laughing and whatever. And Lady Deathstroke, she's like filing her claws. She's like, stupid boys, stupid guns. Sabretooth like kind of laughs and flexes. He's like, got the real guns right here, lady. And he kisses his bicep and laughs. Then she suddenly puts a claw like right up to his face, like in front of his nose, before he realizes it. And he like growls at her. And then Maverick says, he's like, keep it friendly. Remember why we're here. And Kane's like, yeah, excited to bury Dr. Cornelius and the trash bags that made us mindless killing machines. Hoorah! And Maverick says, he's like, just like old times. He's like, the band's back together. So Wolverine's, he's in his brown and yellow costume. I don't know, have we seen that? I can't even keep track of what's going on here. Him and Morph are sitting in the front, flying the helicopter. And Morph says it's quite the crew he pulled together. Wolverine says that his intel says that Weapon X Scum has a new lab conducting illegal experiments again. So who better to stop them than the hit squad who hits the hardest or something like that. Morph says, like, let's review. Maverick and Kane are old Weapon X bosom buddies. You and Yuriko used to date, which, yeesh. It's like, I thought you and Jean were unhealthy. And Wolverine's just like, grrr. He's like, you and Sabretooth hate each other, can't seem to live without each other. A classic, will they or won't they kill each other? He's like, can't wait to add to the memories. And Wolverine's like, don't recall twisting your arm. And he's like, you tried a few puppy dog looks, and he's like, what the hell's a puppy dog look? And he changes into Wolverine, and like an innocent gaze dripping with subtextual guilt. Wolverine just like groans. And then Sabretooth comes up. What's your deal, putty boy? You got beef with Weapon X, or you just a Harry Runt's little ex-pet? And he like scoffs. He's like, only pet here is whatever that flea-riddled outfit of yours was before it got roadkill. Kane and maybe Maverick laugh. And he's like, don't you talk about my damn outfit. Then the front windows start cracking. Birds are like flying into the plane, and like one somehow takes out like the back propeller. So there's alarms, they start spinning. Morph tells like, hang on. He's like, brace for impact. Then it's like black. And Morph starts to wake up, and it's like snowing, and the helicopter wreckage is in flame. He calls out to Logan. He turns and he sees Kane impaled on a busted tree. So I'm like, does Kane, Weapon X or whatever his name is, does he have healing powers? Because it's like, did they just kill him like that? He literally does nothing except like show all his guns that pop out of his arms and shoulders and everything when he's telling his story or whatever. So he's gone. And then Maverick comes up asking for status report. Lady Deathstrike calls out. She thinks that she found their nasty culprit. She's kneeling by like a dead bird, but it's the bird has teeth, and there's like this neon green liquid coming out of its like busted body. Maverick suggests they find the rest of the team. So I guess they're just going to leave Kane behind. It's like, well, he's dead. Nothing we can do. I guess what are they going to do? Carry his dead body? He's probably heavy with the metal arms and all that. So they're walking, and then they stop when they hear something. And then there's like red glowing eyes in like a little cave or whatever. This white bear with the red eyes and a couple like, there's a couple like spikes or something like that, and some maybe ridges on his back. I don't know what's going on. It attacks Maverick. He shoots at it, but then the bear like knocks him away. It has this like massive set of teeth, and it heads in like Morph's direction. He changes into Sasquatch from Alpha Flight. He grabs the bear from behind, and the Lady Deathstrike like jabs her claws into its gut. More green liquid, and then it swats her away. She lands on her feet. Morph gets thrown, and then Wolverine runs up and jabs his bones into the bear's shoulder, and it's in pain, but it throws him down. He puts his foot down on his chest and roars. Then Sabretooth puts it in a headlock and snaps its neck. He like chuckles and lets the bear drop. Ain't you glad I always been better at you? He chuckles some more. Wolverine still has his claws out and he groans. And then Sabretooth's like, what happened to your pretty metal claws? And he's like snickering. And Wolverine's like, don't worry about it. And then Lady Deathstrike's, impossible. The adamantium process cannot be reversed. And then there's like just silence. And they're all looking at Logan. He's like, ain't nobody's business but mine. And Sabretooth's like, nobody's business? Straight out here in the Arctic with a bunch of lying merc and killers? You damn well bet your business is my business. And Morph's like, hey, Alphas, want to get back to our regularly scheduled programming? It's like, courtesy of your mad scientists? And Lady Deathstrike's like, these creatures appear to be infected. Perhaps a contagion? And Sabretooth's like, smell ain't right either. And Wolverine's like, never smelt anything quite like this. And he keeps like sniffing around. They come across there's like a facility. Maverick's looking through binoculars, says the perimeter's been breached. So they approach. Sabretooth says looks like something went down. So they find this like big, dark, ominous tunnel like entrance. They go in there. Then there's this big elevator. They go down. Maverick says that the local wildlife must have busted their way in because they see like some claw marks and stuff. Logan says, or clawed their way out. I would think you'd be able to tell the difference if something clawed in or clawed out, whatever. Sabretooth is getting antsy because he wants something. He wants to gut something. He wants to find Cornelius. Morph says that they should first figure out how they're going to get back home. Logan says that they'll tackle one problem at a time. They're there to do a job, so the job's getting done first. I don't know what about that thinking. I mean, should you say, okay, we have a job to do, but let's make sure we know how we're going to get out of here. I guess it does. I mean, you should have like an escape plan, an escape route. And Wolverine's just like, no, we're going to do the job and then we'll figure out some way. There might not be a way. And, this whole conversation, Mavericks, he's had this like holo scan like up on his gauntlet of the facility. I don't know how he was able to get all that information, whatever. And it's like maybe like 7 floors or so down. There's this glowing orange dot like that's been sitting there the whole time. And Lady Deathstrike finally, she's like, "What's that?" And he says it's life sign 6 o'clock. It's in the control room above the hydrogen core. Vitals fading. So they head towards it. Lady Deathstrike says Morph, and she's like, "Poor Tomo, so loyal." So at this, she's like, I'm like, Tomo? I was like, okay, his name's Morph. I was like, am I just like, did I miss something? Did I forget something? Is Tomo somehow his real name? It's like, why is she calling him Tomo? So I looked it up. She actually brings it up later, but I did a Google search. So Tomo is apparently a reference to a magical shape-shifting fox from Japanese folklore. So the myth tells of a fox who served and protected a heroic samurai, but whose story ultimately ended in tragedy. So she's referring to him. And like Wolverine's supposed to be a samurai, I guess. In a dark hallway around the corner, they find a couple like bodies on the ground. There's like more claw marks, more scientist body. Maverick gives Morph a gun, and he's like, okay. They enter this big room at the end of the hall. Morph gasps. There's more slash bodies, and then Morph like gets grossed out when Sabretooth. He just randomly like stabs the back of a scientist with his claws, I guess, just to make sure. And then he makes Morph says he's like, I didn't believe that you're a great and creative father, but now I see the resemblance or something like that. Sabretooth's like, I should have killed him when he was born, or says something, makes some crack about it. Maverick says it doesn't look like anyone made it, and then they all gasp when the light shines and there's a dude in a shirt and tie just standing there, and he's like, stray dogs always slink back home sooner or later, ha! And Sabretooth's like, well, I'll be Dr. Cornelius. Lady Deathstrike's like, thief, you perverted my father's work. And she like raised her claws to strike, but Morph stops her. He's like, whoa, bad history, I get it. Theme of the day, but this guy's unarmed and he probably knows how to get us out of here. And she's like, Cornelius, he's like, Professor Oyama's work. It's all junk, dead science, primitive, much like you mutants are to the Queen. And it's like kind of distorted. I was like, Queen, what? So Lady Deathstrike moves to like strike him, but then Sabretooth stops her this time. And he's like, Four Eyes is mine. And then Cornelius like laughs maniacally. And Logan's like, did I miss one of your jokes? And he laughs like louder. And then he vomits green stuff on Sabretooth's front. And he like grunts in like disgust. And then Cornelius' body starts twitching and then snaps. And then a beast like busts out of his skin. And it's got like tentacles. And it's like, wait, is it a brood? It's like, it looked like a brood, but it's like, what's with these tentacles? And then there's more like in the air ducts above. Maverick like shoots like what was the professor, like Dr. Cornelius, whatever. Then Morph shoots a couple that are behind Maverick, and they can fly too. They got like wings, and it's like I'm thinking, it's like, can Brood fly? Wolverine and Sabretooth slash at them. Lady Deathstrike gets hit from behind, and Morph changes into Puck. At first, I missed. I missed when he changed into Puck, and when I rewound it, and I was like, oh yeah, he changes right there. You see him. I don't know how he missed it, because all of a sudden Puck's like, he jumps up and he turns into Ball, and then he like bing, 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 bing. He takes out like 4 of them on the ceilings, and then when he lands, he turns into the Thing, and he like smashes the Cornelius one, even though he was already shot. So they all locked themselves in this containment room. Wolverine says that the report said something fishy was going on, so I guess they redacted the bits about the overgrown roaches. Morph says, he's like, you basically smelled everything there is to smell on a planet, Logan. It's like, what are these things? And he's like, caught a whiff of something similar once, but these are different. And Lady Deathstrike's like, different from anything on this planet, at least? And Wolverine's like, look at that, Yuriko, our second alien invasion. They're like, what was their first alien invasion? Maverick's looking at a scan of the building, again on his wrist thing. And he's like, good news is this bunker's laced was adamantium. He says the bunker's laced was adamantium. So I was like, what do you mean laced was adamant? Whatever. I guess I just don't know anything. He's like, should keep him off while we find another exit. And Wolverine's like, we got to go deeper. And he's like, are you dumb or crazy? It's like, we need a way out. And Wolverine's like, crazy is trying to outrun these bugs on foot. Morph and I will push to the vehicle bay here, get some wheels. But the bay doors ain't opening until you clowns reboot the generators in the server room. Deeper is our way out. So as he heads off, like Sabretooth grabs his arms and he's like, you weren't there after the crash. Who's to say you didn't suck face with one of those things and now you're infected like Cornelius? So Sabretooth growls, Wolverine growls, Deathstroke puts her claws like under Logan's face, and she's like, he could be under their thrall, luring us into a trap. And Maverick points a gun at her. He's like, didn't see you after the crash either. How do you know Wolverine was gone? Were you watching us? Maybe you're one of them. And she's like, perhaps both are. And then Morph's like, look, there's a lot of dead lab coats around. Is it too big of a stretch to imagine Cornelius inject himself with alien DNA? And she's like, no 2 X-Men go anywhere alone. Tomo here comes with me. And Maverick's like, once Team X, always Team X, right? So Maverick, he takes Wolverine away. Sabretooth goes with Lady Deathstrike and Morph. So the three are walking down like a long, dark hall. They see like a dead scientist with claws in his head or something like that. Sabretooth like sniffs, turns down another hall. Lady Deathstrike says to Morph, you never answered Creed's questions on the helicopter. What is your stake in our nightmare, Tomo? And he's like, what's up with the Tomo stuff? So she tells him that Tomo's a magical shape-shifting fox from Japanese legend, loyal sidekick to the heroic samurai. And she's like, there is nothing that Tomo wouldn't do, knowing he wouldn't become to help the samurai in his adventures. Unfortunately, it did not work out well for Tomo. So it turns out Sabretooth knows a bit about technology. He's hooking up all these wires, and he's like kind of like laughing. He's cocky or whatever. So he mentions he stopped counting birthdays at 200. It's like, really, 200? And he says that the key to surviving is to keep up with technology. So he turns all the screens. They're like in this room. There's like all these screens. North notices all these digital video discs. It's weird that they call them digital video discs. They're DVDs. So they're labeled, it doesn't make any sense, like some of the names here. So they have, I don't know what this means, but they have Winter Soldier, Mastodon, PSY Borg, 18, so I think that's weapon 18, right? Silver Fox, and maybe Sabretooth doesn't see Silver Fox. And then there's Wolverine, Phantom X, Aurora, Ajax, X-23. So it's like they have X-23 already, and it's just weird. And then Morph says like, Frankenstein had funding. But it's like, I don't like Winter Soldier has nothing to do with what, I don't know, maybe research or something like that. Because in the camera pans, we see more like on the other side, because like Morph's hand was in the way. There's Weapon 6 VI. There's Ant, Garrison Kane, Sabretooth, Agent Zero, Kimura. Kimura is the one who hates X-23. Worm, Slug, Kestrel, Lady Deathstrike calls it Peon Tech and says that she prefers Laserdisc. So Morph notices like blood on what's 18. So they pop it in. Meddlesome Paradox, as the broken past that made each subject so quick to volunteer also made them defective. They always remembered. Despite countless memory wipes, they wished to flee. And we see like there's several are wearing like the Weapon X helmets and they seem to be in pain, whatever. And imprinted in areas where the psyche would never be able to breach until our pet from outer space, the brood, like so much has been gleaned despite only acquiring one of these brood. Its brain structure suggested the brood are a hive species like ants or bees. Each brood is interlinked and capable of divergent thought or emotion, a shared psyche possessed of the basest instinct, survive. Using its cranial fluid, in theory, our serum should purge even the most deeply seated memories, resulting in a total loss of identity and, more importantly, total obedience as weapon. The serum works, though using Earth insects as physiological models for alien species has resulted in an unfortunate hiccup. Like my colleagues, I too wonder if a fully transitioned subject could be tamed, never mind survive the adamantium process. Concern for my staff's well-being outweighs such curiosity. And it ends. And Sabretooth's is like, it's like hardcore. Then the lights in the monitors shut off, and there's movement in the air ducts above them, and a giant brood is behind Morph. So he yells as it attacks, like sending like talons out, whatever, like squish. Lady Deathstrike tears it apart. Morph gasps in size because it looked like he was going to get like stabbed or whatever. She extends her hand to him, but then asks if he's infected. He's like, no. He's like, one thing I can tell you, I was wrong. Cornelia said that the brood have one goal, survive. And that means they're picky, made up, not down. And she's like, that's why they're leaving bodies. They only breed with the best. And then Morph's like, and if there's one guy who's the best at what they do, it's like, is Wolverine really better than everyone else? I mean, I know he's supposed to be, but it's like, he hasn't beaten Sabretooth yet in this show, at least. Whatever. So they hear creatures like growling over the radio. Maverick's like, we're overrun. And he's like, no, stop, please. So they run to help. They enter his room, and there's just smoke. Morph calls out to them. He bumps into like a containment pod, and he gasps because Omega Red is inside. It's like, what? Sabretooth like chuckles. He's like, don't worry. I'll protect you, sweetheart. So he says that to Morph. And he's like, what the hell is Omega Red doing here? And Lady Deathstrike's like, many times have the Russians tried to replicate my father's work. The KGB no doubt persist. And Sabretooth's like, should kill him. It might be one of these breeds. And then Morph's like, brood. Last I checked, Omega Red was undead. Not sure you can be turned into a brood if your mutant power basically makes you a zombie. And Sabretooth's like, where the hell are we anyways? This doesn't look like no vehicle bay. And then Lady Deathstrike's like, oh, an adamantium chamber. Maverick suddenly grabs Morph by the shoulder. He gasps. He's like, game over. Morph's like, slow down. Where's Wolverine? And Maverick's like, they keep coming from those vents. Just more and more. And then Logan, and then there's like a metallic thud. The air duct vent like is moving. And he's like, come on, we need to go now. We have to. And then they're like, Maverick, relax. And then something zips by and roars. Morph shines the light around, and the room is like full of smoke. Maverick gets grabbed, and we see him get stabbed in the smoke like a couple times. And it looks like it's got pointy ear. Like, what's going on? The creature, you can tell who it is. Creature throws Maverick down and snarls. And then as the smoke starts to clear, we basically get a recreation, this is a nerd moment, of the cover of Uncanny X-Men number 234 by Mark Silvestri. So in this comic, and I know this because back when I was drawing on paper, I did this. I did a creation. I did an attempt at drawing this cover. So it's Wolverine like kneeling as with a brood head and like his claws out. So they basically recreated that image, which I thought was awesome. So Wolverine's a brood now. He darts off, and there's more like regular brood. Sabretooth gets knocked down. Then Lady Deathstrike gets knocked down. Morph and Wolver brood. He comes running at him, roaring. Morph changes into Vindicator to try to deflect his strikes. Morph gets tossed and then slams into his computer console. He's like kind of dazed, whatever. Lady Deathstrike jabs her claws into the head of the brood attacking her, slices it in half, like just tears it apart. Sabretooth is like tearing up his. Wolver brood snarls at an unconscious Morph. Lady Deathstrike yells, jabs him like 3 times in the back with her claws, and then like slashes like a 4th time, whatever. Wolverine roars, and then she's like slashes across his face. He roars in her face. Sabretooth picks up a flamethrower from like a dead worker, shoots fire at them, and Wolverine so they split up. Wolverine ducks to the side. Wolverine's like following him with the flame, and then he loses sight of him. And then somehow Smoky Wolverine attacks him from behind, knocks him down, knocks him down, throws him, and then like the controls for like Omega Red's pod, something hit the computer console, so it starts sparking, and then his eyes open up. So now we're gonna have Omega Red to deal with. The glass bust. Omega Red's carbonadium or something like that. His carbonadium, I think that's what it's called, tentacles strike Wolver brood, slam him against a pillar. He like starts walking towards him. His tentacles wrap around Wolverine's like neck and one of his wrists. He's like, "You look as bad as I feel. You look as bad as I feel, comrade." And he like chuckles. Morph like changes to Deadpool, and he helps Sabretooth up. They and Lady Deathstrike leave as Omega Red and Wolver brood start fighting. Sabretooth laughs, saying that he was right. He's like, you both was one of them things. Like, I knew it, or something like that. Morph's like, that's not Logan. And Lady Deathstrike's like, Maverick is dead. We must reach the transport bay before we are too. So Sabretooth like scoffs. He's like, amen. He's like, I'm out of here. And Morph's like, hold up. It's like, we're not going anywhere until we save Wolverine. And they keep walking. He's like, hey, listen to me. And he like shoots a door control panel and it like shuts before they can walk through it. He's like, I said, we're not going anywhere. Sabretooth's like, you must be infected with one of those eggs, or maybe it's worse. And it's like, and he's just got you this whipped. And he points his claws at Morph's chest, and he gets like angry or frustrated. He turns into Silver Samurai, starts like attacking Sabretooth. Lady Deathstrike's like, he is beyond saving. That monster in there, that feral beast that killed his friend Maverick, that's the real Wolverine. It's like, now you see him. And Morph's like, that's not true. And he's doing a good job fighting Sabretooth, but then he gets knocked on his back, and Sabretooth's like, look where we found him, you dope. He was in the adamantium chamber. It's like the opposite direction of the vehicle bay. It's like, this had nothing to do with taking down Weapon X. He came to get his claws back. And Morph's like, fine, maybe you're right. He lied to us. Either way, that this doesn't end with Weapon X. If unkillable brood with Wolverine's healing factor get out into the world, taking over Earth is week 1. And Sabretooth's like, got a plan to go along with that speech? And Morph's like, those DVDs we saw. It's like, they said that the brood can't survive the adamantium process, but we know that Wolverine can. She's like, so you're saying we give Logan what he wants? And Morph's like, Logan's healing factor should protect him while the adamantium purges him of the brood's DNA. And Sabretooth's like, how the hell are we going to lure him into the chamber? And Morph's like, I got an idea. And then we see Cyclops. It's Morph. He's calling out, Logan. It's like, duty calls, soldier. It's like, you better obey. I'm going to tell Jean. Ooh, how do you like that? Gosh, she'll be angry. And Yuriko is in a control room ready to, hit the switch on the adamantium chamber thing. She's going to be so upset with you that I'm just going to have to give her extra smooches tonight. He's like, Logan. He's like, Jean. And Wolver brood pops up behind him. He's like, Wolverine, I knew you'd come to your senses and listen to your superior. So Wolver brood snarls, and he starts like slashing at Morph, but he's just like backing up, like ducking, like towards the chamber. Then Sabretooth comes out from behind his hiding spot. He grabs Wolver brood from behind. He's like, time I put you down once and for all. And Morph's like, this isn't the plan. And Sabretooth's like, I'm done with the plan. But then Wolver brood starts attacking, so they're fighting. Other brood are like trying to like pry open the big like doors. Lady Deathstrike, she goes to deal with them. And then Sabretooth and Wolverine, as they're fighting, they slice this pipe or something like that. It causes some explosion. Morph gets like blown back. He hits like the chamber. And then Lady Deathstrike, she must be done with her brood already, because she goes and she opens the chamber door. Wolverine shoves a bloody Sabretooth aside. He heads towards Cyclops, who he changes back into Morph, and he tells Wolverine, he's like, don't do this. He's like, don't make them write about you. You're not a monster. You're my friend. He's like, when Sinister took me over, when he corrupted me, you didn't leave me behind. You came for me. You tried to bring me back. And Wolverine's just like slashing at him. Is like he's ducking back, while he's talking. He's like, X-Men don't just cut and run, and I won't either. And it's whoosh, stabs Morph, and like Morph screams, stabs him like in the right like kind of chest, shoulder area. It wasn't like too low, but a little high. Morph like falls to his knees while like the claws are still in, and then he turns into Jean, and he's like, Logan, and he's like, Jean. Lady Deathstrike leaps down, grabs Wolverine, flips him over her head, and he throws him into the chamber. The door closes behind him somehow. Morph and Lady Deathstroke try to keep it shut, because the glass is like cracked or whatever, and maybe there's no lock, I don't know. Sabretooth climbs up a ladder to go to control room, even though he said he was done with the plan. But then the chamber starts filling with like liquid. He gets injected by all these needles. There's more banging outside the room, some more brood are there trying to get in. Then a bunch at the door gets like sliced to pieces by Omega Red. And he's like, I was restrained once, but a living weapon such as myself cannot be stopped. So he like strikes at Morph and Lady Deathstrike. He manages to get a hold of Lady Deathstrike and starts like draining her essence or whatever. And then he drops her. He tries catching Morph's, because he was Wolverine's ally, whatever he calls him. Morph changes to Spider-Man, so he's jumping around. There's more brood starting to pour in through the vent in the ceiling. Morph gets like caught by Omega Red and zapped. Omega Red says that he will unleash these creatures and cleanse the earth to make an empire of his own. And then Wolverine's like fists in a chamber clenches. He has metal claws now. He starts slashing at the glass door. Water starts pouring out. And then like Berserker Barrage or something like that, he slices up the brood. He like stands, he's facing Omega Red. His claws are covered in like the green blood goop stuff, whatever. He smiles and chuckles. And then he holds up his claw and like one finger does like the Frank Miller Wolverine limited series cover. It's like saying come here, whatever. And he's like, I'm back, baby. So fight. The Morph tells the other two, he's like, they got to go. The whole place is going to blow. He turns to watch Wolverine and Omega Red. He's like, Logan, now. And this big pillar like starts to topple. So Wolverine kicks Omega Red down, and then the big pillar falls on him. It's like kind of a cheap win. So they easily find a craft. They slash at the controls because brood are like following them. They turn on the jets. The lab starts to go up in flames, frying the brood in there, and then the whole base blows up, including like the DVDs and I guess Maverick's body and Omega Red maybe. On the craft is quiet. Morph is like holding his shoulder. He's just kind of staring. Wolverine's is like staring straight ahead, and then he's like, spit it out, bub. And Morph's like, if you're asking me to say it, you don't need me to say it. And Wolverine's like, I ain't like you, Morph. Some of us got to be one thing. And he like looks at his like cut up gloves, for where the claws popped out. Morph's like, and you're only what? An animal with claws? And then snicked. That's what I'm the best at being. And Morph's like, doesn't that make you sad? It makes me sad, Logan. And he gets up and goes like control area and sits next to Deathstrike. She kind of gives him a look. And Wolverine, he just stares at his claws, and he looks at his reflection in them, and then he retracts them, and he just looks out the window, and that's the end. So he got his adamantium back, and the whole thing, it is really crappy what he did. Basically, he gets. So what did he do? He's responsible for Kane dying. He's responsible for Maverick dying. Maverick, who he actually liked. And then, Omega Red or whatever. And he kills them two. Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike are lucky to get out. Morph is lucky to get out. He puts everyone at risk just so he can get his adamantium back. I mean, BS. It was about stopping Weapon X or anything like that. He talked to Captain America to get information on this because he wanted the adamantium, not because he heard that there was maybe something going on. It just happened that something was going on. So yeah, it's a good thing that they did go because they stopped the Brood. But basically, Wolverine, because even when they were supposed to be looking for a vehicle, he wasn't at the vehicle bay. He was in an adamantium chamber because that was his mission, and he lied to everyone else about it. So that's really crappy on his part. And like Morph, Morph is like he is like his loyal puppy, whatever, and Wolverine just straight up lied to him. And like never, it's like, hey, sorry, you got stabbed in the shoulder and you almost died numerous times, but thanks for letting me get my medal back, jerk. Wolverine's a big poop. That was X-Men '97. So yeah, and as you listen to this, the next episode's out already, but I haven't watched it yet. Okay, Silo, season 3, episode 3, A Dark Web. I'm still enjoying the show. I'm intrigued with what's going on. I love the fact that we're seeing stuff in what I assume is the present, and then the time in the silo, and kind of seeing the little seeds of it's mainly with the drug of the forgetting. I'm still trying to figure out like what led to the silo, and obviously there's tension between, I guess, the U.S. and Iran, and I don't know, but to go to this extreme. And I have to wonder, and I hope we'll find out, it's like when did they start building these silos? Because if there's at least, I forget how many there are now. I think did they tell us? But if there's at least 18, minimum of 18 huge holes in the ground that would have to be spread apart so they're not too close, and to be able to hold 10,000 people each, it's like that's crazy. And it's like, did they put the entire? No, not the entire. I don't even know how. Like, and how did they select who would go in there? How did they first decide this? And I'm assuming, this is like so many questions. Did they keep this a secret? When they first. They're like, okay, we're going to evacuate to these silos, and 10,000 people line up and get ready to move in. Did they believe that they were the only ones to enter? How did they enter? Did they all go in one by one at the top? Man, there's like so many questions. Did they knock them out and carry them in there so they wouldn't see? Because somehow they had to have to blindfold them, because you can't see, like, oh, don't mind those other mounds. So this episode, anyways, it starts off, nurse is talking to Juliet as she takes her vitamins, and the nurse leaves Juliet, and then she goes, she's talking to Jerry, and I think she went in the bathroom or something like that, but she's like, yesterday he asked her to be honest when she needed space, and she's like, today, she's like, I'd like to walk the silo, and she grabs her tool from Walker. She doesn't use it. You would think, it's like, is she going to need it? She doesn't, and she ends up not using it all. She just takes it, maybe just out of habit or whatever. And she's like, I'd like to walk the silo by myself. She's like, is that okay? And he's like, yes, ma'am. Then it cuts to the past. Daniel goes to this place where they're like thanking veterans. It's for one of the guys in Charlotte's squad, Juan. It's like kind of like a memorial thing, whatever. So his parents, Juan's parents, are up front talking to the group, whatever. And then when the parent, I don't know if other people in the squad were honored, if it was just them, whatever. But when Juan's parents finish, Daniel goes up to them. He introduces himself, and Dad's like, I know who you are, Congressman. And at first I was like, oh crap, is he going to blame him or something like that? And he's like, your sister is family to us, which makes you the same. So it's like, whew. And he's like, how is she? And Daniel's like, she's all right. Like, her memory has been affected. I have a lot of questions. And the dad's like, yeah, we all do. And Daniel's like, I don't know if this is the right time, but as former military yourself, do you have knowledge that maybe, and he kind of trails off. He's like, Daniel's like, someone told me that before the mission, the whole squadron's communication devices were switched out. The dad's like, downgraded to comms that were discontinued years ago, even before my time in the service. Juan called me right before, told me his radio was older than he was. And Daniel's like, why would they do that? Dad's like, prevent jamming? I don't know. But it exposed him to a whole lot more. Buddy of mine who was in charge with filling out forms of the incident said that because the comms weren't encrypted, they could have easily been recorded. And Daniel's like, by? And Dad's like, nearly anyone. Said it wouldn't have been hard to do, so it's probably out there somewhere. And Daniel's like, did he happen to say where we could get a copy? And he's like, no, told me to put it out of my mind. And Daniel's like, because it's top secret? Dad's like, no, because he's a friend, because he thinks it's easier for me to move on if I'm not thinking about all those sick people sitting around listening to the sound of my son's death. Then a couple dudes walk in, like one's in a suit, like a whatever, like, dress suit or suit, or naval suit, whatever, I don't know. And the other is like this old guy. And then the dad's like, that's Captain of the Nimitz. He's like, I better. And he's like, been out nearly 20 years and I still straighten up. So he goes over and shakes their hand, leaving Daniel at the bar. So I thought that the older guy was the captain, but he wasn't in like naval attire or whatever. In the siloed nurse reports, she spit out the meds in there last night and here this morning. So Camille thanks her. The nurse asks her if she wants her to double tonight. Camille says to just keep doing what she's doing. Shirley gets a note from a porter. And it says, I heard you took Lucas Kyle somewhere during the rebellion. Wherever he is now, I need to find him. I was hoping you might have some idea. Juliet. And then shirtless Knox comes up behind her. So it's like, wait, did they finally hook up? It's weird because what's really weird is just like a few days before on Reddit, because I don't read the Reddit posts because since I'm like a week and a half behind, but someone posted, they're like, man, why don't they just have Knox and Shirley get together already? They're like, I know that, Shirley's kind of portrayed as a like potential like lesbian because, they said that she gives off some vibe or whatever, she's independent, and which is not necessarily characteristics. Anyone can be independent. You know what I'm saying? But they always kind of geared it like that, maybe because they're probably looking at it because she's tough, she's got short hair, and, she's doing the work of a man, heaven forbid. But regardless, Knox and Shirley are a couple. I don't know when that happened, maybe, because I don't think they were before. And I don't know if it, yeah. Because it's like, was there anything between, I don't think there was ever anything between Knox and Juliet because, she was his shadow for like the longest time. So it was probably more like a older brother, not necessarily like a father thing, but they're together. So he comes up behind her and he asks, she's like, what is it? And she just crumples up the note. She's like, more delays on the rebar. So she's lying to him. She starts getting dressed. He's like, you're headed out already? And she kind of glanced at a tattoo like on her thigh or something like that when she's pulling up her pants. I think I couldn't really tell because like so many moments in the show are so dark. Is either a little tattoo or like a scar or something like that. And if it's something, I don't remember. It could be something that we've seen before. But I was wondering, like, did she get a tattoo? Does it have anything to do with like Juliet's big tattoo on her arm? I don't know. But then she says, she's just like, see you out there. And he stares and he's like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. And she gives him a smooch and they leave. Billings' wife answers her door, like carrying her kid. It's Juliet asking if the sheriff's home. Because, she was hoping to catch him there. And so she's like, no, he left last night on a missing persons in the mids. And Juliet's like, do you mind if I come in? And so Kat lets her in. And Juliet's like, have we met before? I'm sorry, I can't. And she's like, no. And Juliet's like, really? I didn't come visit you as a sheriff when your husband was my deputy? And she's like, no. So it's like she never came by the office? I mean, Juliet wasn't a sheriff that long. Juliet's like, what do you know about Patrick Kennedy and Lucas Kyle? And she's like, nothing. I don't mean to rush, but I got a busy day ahead. And Juliet's like, I get it. You never heard of them, either of them. Patrick Kennedy being the biggest fugitive in Silo. And Kat's like, I don't really keep up with the gossip. And she's trying to kind of trying to hide her bandaged wrists. Not really, because, she's not wearing long sleeves like, Peter told her to. And then she's like, right. what happened to your wrist? And Kat's like, I fell. And Julia's like, you were part of the break-in, weren't you? And she's like, I'm not here to have you arrested, okay? I want to know where Patrick Kennedy is. That's all. Does your husband know you're an outsider? Because if your husband knows you're an outsider, it makes perfect sense why Kennedy hasn't been caught and maybe why Lucas hasn't been found. And she's like, Lucas Kyle is dead. And Kennedy knows places in a silo that Paul, his deputies, or raiders, anyone wouldn't know where to look. And she's like, right, but you know where to look. And she's like, I don't believe Lucas is alive. Kennedy hunted him for months and found nothing, even had us follow his mother. And Julia's like, did you talk to her? Kat's like, she said the last time she saw Lucas was in her apartment during the rebellion, not long before you came back. Sims came in with a gun, wanted to know what Bernard and Lucas were talking about, threatened to kill his mother. Which is like, okay, remember this. Sims threatened Lucas's mother. Okay, hold on to that thought. And she's like, Lucas refused to say. That was the last time she saw him. They never, took you down to the bottom, did they? Paul said that the bodies were 3 deep over the circulation fans of 144. They were running the incinerator 24 hours a day. It looks like Lucas Kyle was turned into ash months ago. Then Camille's talking to the computer, says that, Juliet's been spitting out her medication, which is not good. But from what they've been able to discern, she's currently out in the silo looking for Lucas Kyle. The computer's like, and that is good? Camille says her search for Kyle will likely yield nothing, but if by following Juliet, they can get confirmation of his death and lure Kennedy out, they may not need the vitamin D+. And the computer's like, 2 improbable possibilities in pursuit of a result easily achieved with one proven act. So Camille doesn't say anything. Then the computer's like, you fear that loss of memory means loss of self-consciousness, loss of identity, the end of personal existence. The choice remains solely in your hands, along with the lives of 9,913 people. Consider expediting the transport of vitamin D+ to filtration. The sooner you introduce vitamin D+ to the water supply, the better the probability of survival, in a time when your silo is so dangerously close to a safeguard. So that's when they reboot the silo and just kill everyone. Then we get the intro. So it cuts to the present. Helen's at work, like at the tabloid places, and she's like walking to her cubicle. She's whatever, there's a bunch of people around. Daniel calls and says he spoke to Juan's father. He thinks that they could probably find a recording of the mission comm somewhere on the internet. And she's like, the dark web? And Daniel's like, he didn't say, but sure. And he doesn't know where to begin with something like that. And she's like, well, I do. And he's like, how are you doing? And then she sees her boss and says she'll call him later. So she sits at her cubicle. Dude, you can tell he's not someone you'd want to work for. He marches up to her area, and she's like, hey, you. She's like, I'm close to being done with this expose into sordid sex lives of supposed celibates, but I am working on something huge. He's like, Helen? And she's like, it's something worthy of the Pulitzer. And he kind of sighs or scoffs where he's like, I don't want a Pulitzer. I just wanted you to do your job. And she's like, I'm doing the job, Phil. I would just rather work remote than hang out in this playground all day. And I totally get that, because you can see, it's just like a bunch of young people just walking around and just talking, whatever. It's just like there's no focus. And, that's supposed to be like, conducive, whatever, what's the word? Work environment and stuff like that. And it's like there is something to it, having done that before. But man, you got to have time to just buckle down and just do the work and not just, play around. And then he's like, I'm letting you go. And she's like, what? He's like, we've taken the liberty of packing up your things. And there's a box next to her. He's like, security will see you out. And there's a dude standing behind her. She's like, what? She's like, hey, what? And he's like, try not to make a scene, okay? So then security dude takes her bags and pulls out her laptop. She's like, hey. She's like, wow. She's like, you're not serious, right? And she's like, okay. So she takes her box. She's like, I didn't even want this fudging job. So she's escorted up by 2 dudes. She looks back at her boss and she sees him talking to old dude. It's the same suit dude who was with the captain of Nimitz at the memorial for Juan. So at this point, I thought he was a captain, but obviously he's not if he's in a suit. So they somehow caught wind of what she was digging into. So she got fired. So then back in the silo, I think it's like Orla's mom. She's talking to Billings that she can't remember going longer than a day without hearing from Orla. And her sister says that she's probably just working on something for McLean. And, the sheriff will track her down. The father asks the sheriff, he's like, you have children? He's like, yes, a daughter. And so Orla's dad's like, then you get it. So as they walk off, his sister says the parents still see them as kids. And she's like, but, you met Orla. She's no child. So their parents worked in supply for decades before this job, but Orla was the first in her family to become a shadow. Billings asks if there's anything else important that she'd like him to know, anyone he should talk to. And she's like, well, along with her new job, Orla has a new boyfriend, Mike Davidson. He'd been with Glenda Harwood, McLean's previous shadow. And he says, Billings like, that's kind of odd, and she agrees. But she's like, I stay out of her love life. So that's interesting. He was dating Orwood's daughter, or Harwood's daughter. Harwood was the head of the mines or somewhere. Not the mine. Was it the mines? And he was mad at his daughter. So did they set up Orla? Like, does Mike Davidson starts dating her and then they have her killed or removed? Or what? That seems very extreme. So he's like, last time you saw her, was there anything strange or different? And she's like, my sister's normally an upbeat person. People gravitate to her. But lately, all I can say is she seemed burdened by something. Who knows? Maybe it's just the stress of running supply. So he nods and he leaves. In the past, Helen's driving Daniel somewhere. She got an address that they need to go for the file because I guess the person wouldn't send a link or anything. And she's like, we have to come in person. So Daniel sounds a little sketchy. And she's like, well, it's a dark web. Sketchy is kind of the point. And she's like, and, don't you think it's weird, me getting fired? And he's like, how so? She's like, well, I started asking questions about Charlotte's mission and suddenly I'm out of a job. And Daniel's like, were you doing a good job? And she's like, what do you? He's like, well, you said you hated working there. People can usually pick up on that. She like scoffs. He's like, what? He's like, I don't know. And she's like, wow. I literally just got fired. Can you, try to be less of a Richard? And he's like, I don't know. He's listen, hey, Helen, I'm so sorry about the job. Those a-holes. And she's like, thank you. That's better. And she kind of smiles. So they go to this sort of industrial part, whatever. Before she can knock, the dude opens the door. He looks around. He lets them in because there's a camera at the door or whatever. He looks behind him, locks the door. So he demands their phones. And then to Daniel, he's like, and you, give me your badge. He's like, my what? And then to Helen, he's like, he not know the deal? And she's like, I don't know the deal. And the dude's like, our intermediary agreed I could clone his congressional badge in exchange for information on the recording. And Danny's like, not a chance. He's like, no. And the guy's like, ooh. He's like, then get the fudge out. They should be like, okay. And I thought she's like, oh, remember, okay, there's that other guy that said that, we could just, might have to pay him. It's like $500 more or something like that. They could have lied. But then Danny's like, fine. So you go into this other area, by a bunch of computers and stuff like that. Gives him the badge. He sticks his badge in a slot, starts cloning it. All this code starts going up on the screen. And then Helen's like, can we hear it? And the dude's like, hear what? He's not even paying attention to them. And she's like, the recording of the unencrypted comms, the Iran mission. And the dude's like, I was told you just want to know it existed. It does. The cards finish copying. He tosses it back to Daniel. He's like, tell anyone about this place, and every social profile with your name on it will have 10 years of freaky porn in the search history. And she's like, okay, no, that was not the deal. And he gets a message pop up on it says, IMB tracked, and then period, you, question mark. I don't know what MB track. I don't know what that meant. And you couldn't see who it was from. And then he's like, it was my deal. He's like, maybe have Byron be a bit more specific with your request next time. So then maybe it had something to do with because he's playing IMB tracked because he started playing an online chess game with his back to them. So I was like, had MB tracked, that doesn't make any sense. And then Danny's like, who do you work for? And the dude's like, who do I work for? Nobody. I'm just one of many like-minded individuals holding government fudges like you accountable by intercepting communications and finding out what we're not supposed to. Danny's like, so you've heard the comms? He's like, yeah, I have. It's horrible. Somebody is up to some poop because what I heard is unlike anything I've. And then Danny's like, my sister was a pilot on that mission. And dude's like, you're what? He's like, senior pilot Charlotte Keene. And he's like, that's your sister? And Danny's like, why? So dude gets up and then he's like, somebody in Moldova got 20 seconds of it, but it was taken down less than 5 minutes after it was posted. I recorded a cassette before it disappeared. I only fudge with analog if I can help it. So he grabs like a Walkman and headphones. He's like, doesn't matter what you offer me. This does not leave my possession, but I don't think you should. Helen grabs it, puts the headphones on. And then the two dudes are like staring at her. She listens. And she's like, to Daniel, she's like, don't listen to that. And Daniel's like, there's no way I'm not listening to it. And she's like, let me tell you what's on it. He's like, and she's like, Daniel. And then he takes it and he like listening. And then he kind of covers his eyes, like rubbing his forehead. Back in the car, she asks, what could cause something that horrific to happen? 4 planes or pilots. What could take control like that? Everything at the same time? He's like, I have no idea. At the silo, Sims drops his kid off at school. He says, I'll be here to pick you up. Then he sees Juliet around the corner, and he like rushes to her. He hisses, like, what the fudge you doing here? She's like, this isn't, no. He's like, hey, wait, hey, because he's like dragging her away by the arm. She's like, I want to ask you something, okay? She's like, wait. He's like, I don't care what you want to ask. You don't come to my son's school or my home ever. She's like, you understand? And she's like, yeah, I understand. Okay, look, I want to ask you for your help. He's like, no, listen. I will spend the rest of my life in the mines for throwing you over the rails before I let you come anywhere close to my son. But it's like he has thrown people over the ledge before, right? We saw him do that. I'm pretty sure, right, in the first season. And she's like, I told you I don't remember. And Sim's like, he remembers. It's like, but here's the thing. Maybe his son needs to know that his dad is a murdering piece of crap, a-hole. Could remember what I said? He went to Lucas Kyle's mom's apartment with a gun, threatening to shoot her because of whatever Lucas Kyle may or may not know. Because Lucas is talking to Bernard and Sims is jealous that he's not in that loop. But if someone threatens his son, heaven forbid, go ahead, threaten someone's mom. That's okay. But you threaten his son? And Sims is such a piece of crap. He's like, my son, he wakes up in the middle of the night afraid. But it's like, I highly doubt he's the only one that gets scared, considering that all of a sudden, like, how many people have disappeared or whatever, how many people have been beaten up by the raiders because whatever orders he's issued. But she whispers, at least he remembers. And he has a dad. I don't even remember what it feels like to have a dad. And she's like, great. So then he's just like, what do you want? She's like, I want to know what you know about Lucas Kyle and if you know where he is. He like shakes his head. And she's like, but you know Bernard took him out of the mines to make him his shadow. So why would he do that? And Sim's like, I wish I knew. And she's like, okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to ask. And she starts to leave. He's like, Nichols. She's like, yes, I'll stay away from your son. And he just like looks in the window at his kid. Camille walks into, I think it's like her office, whatever. Sims is like in the main part with their kid working at a desk with like some lady, secretary, I don't know, assistant. And Camille asks if everything's okay. Why is he not in school? So Sims like kind of takes her away. He's like, we need a family day, all 3 of us. And she's like, Rob? He's like, I want to go to the park. And she's like, no. He's like, I want us to be together. She's like, Robert? And Sim's like, I want to spend more time together. She's like, today is not the day, okay? You have no idea what I'm dealing with. He's like, you're right, I don't. But something came up. And she's like, what happened? So it's like, he's still jealous that, he's a judge now or whatever, but he still doesn't do anything. He doesn't know anything. Cheryl's working by the Gap, and then Juliet comes down the stairs, and she like curses whatever and sees her. She ends up like, she's like reeling some like cable or something like that. They're like lifting concrete or whatever, and she ends up, it like slips out of her hand, like falls down and crashes into like the level below and like just barely misses some people. Then some other dude's like, it's like, I'll talk to her. So Kat, she talks to Sandy in secret. Who's Sandy again? Sandy she worked with at the sheriff's office or whatever. So she says Nichols might not be who she once was, but she's still sharp. And Danny's there too. He says that they hunted Lucas Kyle for months and they're sharp. And Kat says that she's asking the right questions. And Danny's like, it's like, yeah, about a dead man. So Sandy asks, who do they have on Nichols today? And Kat says, Bobby. She ran into her on her way down. And she said that she saw her, headed down to the Gap. So this dude goes up to Juliet. And he's like, you can't. She cuts him off. She's like, I need to go down. And the dude's like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just not safe. And then Juliet, this is why I like Juliet. She's like, okay, let me rephrase that. I'm going down. And he's like, whoa. Cheryl comes up behind Juliet. And she's like, if he says it's not safe, it's not safe. This isn't just about you. You going down means someone else isn't. That someone might be a safety spotter for someone who's working. And then Juliet's like, why did you ignore my note this morning? And Cheryl's like, I didn't get it. And Juliet's like, that's not what the porter said. So she knows she's lying. And Shirley's like, I was in a hurry. And she's like, really? And then she's like, fudge it. What do you think, Madam Mayor? Do you have any idea what it's like to have your best friend not know you? And Juliet's like, do you know what it's like not to remember your best friend? And if you were my best friend, wouldn't you come? Why do you think I messaged you out of everyone? And she's like, right. I need you to find Lucas Kyle. Could you take me to where you took him? And she's like, that area is sealed off. It's not possible. And she's like, okay, thank you. So she starts walking away. She grabs something, I think it was like a pair of gloves, and then she like jumps on a rope and starts sliding down. And it's just crazy. And she just like looks at him as she's sliding down. And Shirley gets on the radio and she calls Knox that, he says that, he sees her when she reaches a lower level. And he tells those like around, he's like, get back to work. And he goes up to her and he's like, Madam Mayor. He's like, Lucas Kyle's not here. So she hands him whatever she took. She starts going down like some like work stairs. He's like, and Shirley isn't lying. Walker sealed up Digger Void 3 months ago. There's no way he's down there. She keeps walking and he's like louder. He's like, let me help you. And she stops and turns around. She's like, so Bernard took Lucas out of the mines to make him his shadow, right? He must have learned something there. So what do you know about the mines? And Knox is like, I don't know how anybody could learn anything from down there. It's a fudging nightmare. He's like, but I do know a guy. Camille and Sims are still talking in her office, whatever. And she asks if their kid actually like saw her. And Sims like, no, Juliet. She's like, then you scare him more by taking him out of school like this? We were already tracking her. He's like, I didn't tell Anthony she was there. And Camille's like, that's not the point. I don't have time for surprises and field trips, Rob. He's like, no, it's not a field. He's like, look, it's important that we take time to make memories as a family, even when it's not convenient for us. She's like, convenient? She's like, you, Robert, how many years did Anthony and I come home to an empty apartment where we stayed alone without you until early in the morning or longer? Did I ever question the hours and the days you spent away in service of the silo? When Juliet's waving a gun in our direction, he's like, it's not about that. She's like, it is about that. He's like, it isn't. No, it's not about. She's like, stop. I find myself in this position, not by choice, mind you, but every day I feel like you work to undercut me. And Sim's like, Anthony needs to have memories of us, both of us together. It's like, do you understand? But it's like, he is so incredibly ridiculous. He was never there. Even like this season, he's hard. This is the first time we've seen their kid because he's always off somewhere doing something. And he's like, and you're right. I'm late to getting this. You think? He's like, it's on me. I'm sorry. I know it hasn't been fair. And she's like, what's all this about memories? She's like, why do you keep saying that? And he's like, she doesn't remember her father. And Camille's like, who? He's like, Nichols. And it's not just that she doesn't remember him. She says she has no feelings of the man. He blew himself up for her friends, and she couldn't even tell me what it feels like to know him. And he shakes his head. And it's weird. He actually really feels bad for her, which is like shocking because he's such a piece of crap. And she's like, Rob, I'm having barrels of vitamin D hauled up to water filtration. And he's like, no. She's like, it's not my first plan, but depending on what happens in the next few hours, I am willing to release it into the water supply. I'm assuming for your time working for Bernard, you know what vitamin D. He's like, yeah. He's like, same thing you're doing to Juliet, but lower and slower. So we don't realize what's happening until it's too late. And she's like, to save the lives of everyone in the silo, yours, mine, Anthony's. What I need to know is that when it comes time, when I ask you to help me with this, you will do as we promised. You will do whatever you can to ensure our son lives on so that one day he can make it out of this silo alive. Sim's like, Camille, that's not, nah. She's like, we said anything that keeps him alive, even if that means forgetting us. And there's a knock on her door, and a deputy or someone says that he didn't use the radio because of the sensitive nature. So Sims leaves the office. She like pauses, looks at him, closes the door. Dude tells her that Mayor Nichols has gone below the gap. So she's asked like where, something like Emerson or something like that. And dude said contacting the trailing agents. So Camille like curses. So Sims tells Anthony to pack up, says it's just the two of them till lunch. Then he'll take him back to school. And then Anthony looks, he's like, are you okay? And Sims is like, yeah. And then Anthony goes in his backpack, takes out the Pez dispenser. He's like, you gave me this so I wouldn't feel worried, remember? And he's like, I remember, son. And then they hug. Knox brings Juliet to this guy named Mark. And he's like, like a wheelchair or something like that. He's like, oh, it's the head of mechanical, his little shadow. He's like, except you're not a shadow anymore. You work for her now. So this guy, you can tell right away he's kind of an ass or something like that. So he's like, she had a question about a criminal in the mines. And she's like, yeah, I want to ask about a guy who went into the mines. And he's like, all due respect, Madam Mayor, if that's what we're supposed to call you now, you're wasting your time. People go into the mines, they don't come out. And she's like, well, you did. And that kind of gets him to like stop and turn around. She's like, Lucas Kyle, you recognize that name? He's like, I don't give names and I don't confirm them either. Knox is like, that's not what she wants. And Julia's like, so he's an IT worker, right? And he was sentenced the guy's like, an IT guy? I don't care what he was sentenced for. He's dead. She's like, no, he survived and he got out. Yeah. And I think he's like, got out, right. She's like, it's because of something that he must have learned in there. So whether you know him or not, I want to know what he could have seen. Mark's like, the only thing in there are metal, ore, and death. The fudging laws of the pack make it that way with the restrictions. So if your guy went in there and lived, it wouldn't be because he learned anything. It'd be because he was lucky enough to get a job cleaning toilets. It's like, good to see you, Knox. In the present, Washington, Helen asks Daniel, like, where do you want me to drop you? You're back at the Rayburn, whatever. He's like, no. He's like, let's go back to Steve or whatever the fudge his name was. He's like, I know what he said, but we need to get that recording. And she's like, why? And he's like, why? Because the people I work for need to know. And no, I don't mean the shadowy creeps who finance campaigns. She's like, I know who you mean, Daniel. She's like, I know. Camille asks this lady, like, where's Juliet now? The lady says that someone radioed that she just left a fabrication, whatever, with Knox. They spoke to Mark Chambers, head of the department. And Camille's like, why go to him? And she's like, I don't know. I can have Melissa speak to Chambers. And she's like, no. Like, Chambers will either tell her nothing or send her in the wrong direction just for fun. Knox says that, he's sorry it wasn't more helpful. Juliet says it's okay. She's just gonna hold it against him for as long as she remembers. And he like chuckles. And she's like, what? He's like, it's just strange looking at you. And she's like, He's like, I know more about you than you know about yourself, but you still act the same. You're still you. And she's like, and that's a good thing, right? He's like, Jules? And she's like, yeah. And they don't make anything. I don't know if anyone's called her Jules before, but he calls her Jules and she responds right away. And he does it again. So maybe they've done it before. I don't know. And she's like, yeah. He's like, there is no one like you. Your fix of the generator is why these lights will be on for years to come. You nearly drowned doing it. You've been outside. You've done things and seen places no one else has ever dreamed of. And there's like someone behind them. So it must be that Bobby person that Camille has following her or whatever. He's like, you looked up at the fudging sky. And she's like, hey, wait. And she's like, just keep walking. So like the person kind of like, because they sort of stop. So the person like stopped, like kind of like behind them. So they go and then they like duck into this little alcove to lose the person. Camille is looking up Mark Chambers records and she says to herself, he was in the mines. I don't know what that matters, but yeah, there's that. So maybe that's why he got injured or something. The woman following Juliet, she's standing around looking for her. Then she radios, she's like, I lost visual. Then Juliet pops out when the lady leaves. So Knox like, where are you going? And she says she's going to find Lucas. And he's like, Jules, she's dead. She's like, you don't know that. Where's the one place you would go if you wanted to disappear? He's like, I'm not taking you to mines. And she's like, I'm not asking you to. And she just goes, he's like, fudge me. So Camille goes to the computer room, asks, how far are the other silos? And the computer's like, why would you need to know? And she cuts her off. She's like, if Julia got to one so quickly, it's probably close. And the computer's like, location and proximity of other silos is not something I'll discuss. Camille's like, fine. But as Bernard's shadow, Lucas would have been told there were other silos, right? Computer's like, he was aware. And Camille's like, and as IT shadow and someone who'd spent time in the mines, even a short time, he probably understood more than anyone why there are strict laws on how far we tunnel. He's like, you understand what I'm getting at? Even if he was just thinking of the silo Juliet went to, Lucas Kyle could have returned to the mines. And Computer's like, Camille, if you believe Lucas Kyle might be in the mines digging horizontally in an attempt to make contact with another silo, I strongly suggest severe precautions be taken immediately. Any silo-to-silo contact is a violation that leads to an immediate safeguard. But it's like, why? Why are they so hung up on that, they're not knowing that they exist? So she kind of takes that in and she leaves. She tells a lady to send a rat extermination team to the mines. She's like, we need an immediate fumigation. And this lady soldier, she asks, she's like, is that code for something? And Camille's like, no, send fumigators with enough gas to fill the tunnels now. And she's like, ma'am, if we do that without warning, there won't be time to get everyone out. And she's like, one of the rats might be Lucas Kyle. Do it. Okay, so here's the thing. She talks to this lady, then later, I don't know if it's the same lady, because I didn't like rewind and compare, but it almost looked like she was down at the mines. How the heck would she get down there? Is there like some secret elevator that we don't know? I don't know if that's ever been clarified. They have the secret like observation rooms. Is there like an elevator or something? So Billings is on the stairs. He sees like the team of fumigators like running down. He like stops like one of the last ones. He's like, what's going on? And the guy's like, robot infestation in the mines. So then they're like spraying already. So it's just like boom. You know, they must have like a team down there or whatever. You know, obviously probably different levels. So there's like some guys behind like a locked steel, or it's not like a closed gate. And they're like screaming and like reaching through. Knox and Juliet come up to a landing where the alarm's like going off, and they see a couple dudes like trying to keep the gate shut. The miners finally push the gates open. They start pouring out. They collapse on the landing. They're like coughing and probably vomiting, whatever. Maybe just coughing. I don't know. Knox and Juliet, they like cover their mouths with like their shirts or whatever, their jackets. And she's like, we have to find Harwood. Knox is like, I'll find him. He's like, you stay here. And then she goes up to this guy's like kind of like busting open a lock to grab a mask or something like that, or you grab something out of there. And she asks what's happening. The dude says that the exterminators released rat bombs without any fudging warning. And, you know, there's no way everyone is getting out on their own. So she grabs a mask out of this locker thing. And it's like she should have grabbed more than one. Maybe there was only one. I don't know. Because she comes across this guy like choking, and she gives him her mask, and she's like, here, breathe. You know, she's covering her face, and she just tries helping him up. But then the dude, he starts getting violent with her. Like he like shoves her back hard against the wall, and you know she's like falls to the floor. And she's like trying to cover her face, and then she tries walking with her mouth covered, but she's already taken in too much. I mean, even covering up, I'm sure that's like not doing anything. She like kind of falls to her hands and knees, and she finally like collapses. And she's like laying there, and then in a bit, someone comes up behind her, picks her up and carries her out, like sets her down on the landing, and she like rolls over, and she's like coughing, and she's like, Lucas. It's friggin' Lucas Kyle. He was down there. So he tells her to breathe, and he's like, hey, Jules. And he's like, you're okay. Then the soldiers see him, and this is where it's like, is that the same lady that's on there? She's like, there, first squad, go after Kyle. So this part really bothered me. Because, yeah, they're going to be looking, whatever. But even, I find it hard that they would recognize him. Amidst all the chaos, there's all these miners out there coughing. He probably has longer hair now. He's full of grime. And you know, there's like all the fumigation smoke's like spilling out, and she's able to recognize him right away. So Kyle tells her that, you know, she's okay. He gets up. The lady she's like, you two, get a medic. And then, you know, they go after him. Knox comes up and sees her. He goes up to her, and he tells her, he's like, Juliet, just keep coughing. So Lucas is running. He has like maybe 5 or 6 guards like running after him. He runs into a storage closet, but there's like nowhere to hide in there. And then, of course, this is the second thing that bothered me with this episode. The guards stopped running, not sure where he went. You would think they would keep going because maybe he turned a corner or something like that, unless there's like a super long like hallway. So the lead guy, you know, holds up his fist to stop them, and then he like splits them up to look. So Lucas had grabbed like a mallet, and he like can see movement outside the door, like the light on the floor or whatever. And they kind of pass by, but then there's more shadows there that kind of like stop outside the door. The door opens, and somehow it's Danny and Sandy. This is a third thing that's kind of ridiculous. I think this is it. But it's like, of all the places that he's running, they're right there. And it's like, what is Sandy doing down there? Like, wasn't she up way higher? And why is Dan? I don't understand. And Danny's like, what a poopy place to hide. And Luke is like, okay, who the fudge are you? So in the present, it's nighttime. Daniel and Helen made it back to that hacker dude's place, but the door's kind of cracked open. So they cautiously go inside. The place is trashed. I was like, we don't see any more of this, but they probably checked everything, maybe. But I was thinking, it's like, oh, is Daniel going to go to the drawer where the Walkman was and pull it out? Because, maybe they're not going to know. How would they know that it's on a Walkman? That what they want. So at the medic area in the mines, Billings asks this other deputy, how'd this happen? And she says she doesn't know, but there's a body they pulled up that's not registered as a minor. One person that no one can account for. So there's a couple of people, dudes with carrying like a gurney. He's like, stop, and he lifts a blanket. He's like, fudge, it's Orla Kent. So somehow Orla ended up in the mines. Did they shove her in the mines? Was she killed and stuck in the mines? Because they pulled out her body, but did she die because someone killed her, or she died from the fumigation stuff? And why would she be in there? So Juliet's in like a hospital bed. The soldier, I don't know if it's the same lady that Camille. I can't keep track of these people because everything's so dark, whatever. So she asks the nurse if she's going to live, and the nurse is like, we don't know. But we're going to have to keep a watch on the door. And this is the thing. So maybe it's a different guard, but I think this is like the same nurse. So she's like, we're going to have to keep watching the door. Don't let anyone in except doctors. And Mrs. Sims, of course. She'll know what to do. So it's like, is this the same nurse? It's like, how did she get down so fast? Then computer says, Camille, your quick decision and Juliet Nichols' bravery has provided a unique opportunity. You now have a chance to greatly increase your silo's survival probability by using the story of her actions in the mines today to instill in your citizens a sense of calm and unity. Camille's like, you want her dead. The computer's like, the death of one person that spares the lives of 9,912 others. Then more almost to herself, she's like, without the use of vitamin D+. And the computer's like, will you do it? And she kind of doesn't say anything. Then it's like, have you ever considered why you were chosen to be head of IT? And Camille's like, I assume it was because of my training as a raider. And the computer's like, no. Then Camille's like, an ability to remain calm under pressure, to take orders and see them through. And the computer's like, no. You were chosen because of your ability to lie. At its core, the job requires deception. 10,000 lives depend on it. Your actions during the rebellion, manipulating your husband, playing both sides, exhibited an ability to do what was necessary, despite any moral qualms. But your ability to maintain that kind of clear resolve has not always been 100%, has it? Before she was sent out to clean, then Sheriff Nichols was a fugitive, hiding in your apartment, holding you and your son hostage. Even after you managed to get control of the gun, you let Nichols leave. Why? And she's like, I was afraid when the raiders were, Camille, guns would be fired. It's clear by the stress in your voice and the cortisol levels in your breath that you're lying. And she's like, all right, I admired her. Strange given the circumstances, but she wanted the truth. I don't know anyone in a silo, at least not anyone interesting, who doesn't ask the questions she was asking. I wanted to see what she found out. I realize now it was a mistake. Juliet Nichols is an existential threat. So it's like, does she really believe this now? Or is she lying and trying to lie? As you said, we now have the opportunity to eliminate that threat and save the silo. And I will do it. It's like, will you? Maybe. Because she's kind of a piece of crap too. I mean, that's why she and Sims are perfect for each other. But, I mean, at its core, she wants to save her son. And, she wants to save the rest of the silo. So, like the computer says, one person compared to 9,000, whatever, 900. So she's probably like, okay, maybe she's going to do it. I don't know. But there's like so many questions I want to know. Why can't the silos know the other silos exist? And also, this is what I'm enjoying about seeing the past. How long did it take to build these silos that can hold 10,000 people, that dig that deep and everything, and to have all this space to hold it? Because how many are there? There's, I forget how many, at least minimum of 18. Wasn't there like 20? I don't remember. And how did they get the people in there? So much I want to know. But I hope we find out more of these answers. Okay, now the movie feature is The Invite. So I was like super skeptical. I was like, because I wanted to see, sort of new movie came out, Her Private Hell. I don't really know anything about it. I think I kind of saw one trailer, but it has Sophie Thatcher, and she's amazing. And it's kind of, it looks like it could be a kind of trippy movie. And, I love that stuff where it just kind of messes with you and you're not really sure what's going on, or the character not really sure what's going on. But for some reason, even though Neon is releasing it, or whatever, distributing it, it's not playing in my area. It's not playing at my theater. It's not playing at any of the theaters in my area, my county. And I cannot tell you, I've seen ads for this on Instagram. Like pretty much like every time I open my Instagram, I see the same. It's not always the same ad. Sometimes it's a different ad, but it's for this movie. So every single time I will click the Showtimes link, and it has my area, whatever, locked in there. And it's like, San Francisco. I'm like, so anyways. So I was like, there's nothing else came out this week. I think there's like some musical or something. I don't even know what it is. Like, I'm not going to see Minions. I'm not going to see whatever this musical thing is. I don't even know what it is. My buddy, he saw The Invite a couple weeks ago and he loved it. I'm like, oh, okay. It's directed by Olivia Wilde, and I think she's cool and everything. That was a Booksmart or whatever that movie was. That was a really good book, or a really good movie. She did a great job. And, so I have respect for her, but I'm looking at this movie. It's like, okay, it's got a good cast. I mean, you got Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen is super talented. Most people, or a lot of people, I think just know him as like the stoner comedian. And, I appreciate him back in the day. I thought he was funny, but it got to a point where I hate to say it. It's like I've kind of had enough of that. It's like, okay, whatever. It's like it starts off like you hear him laughing. It's and there's something about that. I mean, no offense, of course, but it just it really kind of bothers me in hearing it. It's like, because I'm sure that's his real laugh. Is it his real laugh? Is it a fake laugh? I don't know, but you got that. So you got Seth Rogen. But again, I absolutely 100% respect all the stuff that he's producing. His involvement with like The Boys and Invincible and what, I mean, he's got his hands on so much, and I think that's great. That really shows that there is a lot more to him than just a stoner comedian. But that's just what we see. And he's got that show on Apple, which I haven't watched. The Audition, I think it's something like that. That's supposed to be really good. Someday I would mind checking it out because it's supposed to be good. So you got Seth Rogen, you got Olivia Wilde, which like I said, she's good. I mainly saw her in the beginning on House. I didn't watch that show religiously. And then was she in Cowboys and Aliens? And I thought she was in something else. But I don't follow her super deeply. And then you got Penélope Cruz. Penélope Cruz, she's good. Loved her in Vanilla Sky, one of my all-time favorite movies. And then Edward Norton, of course he's good. He's been in good things, Fight Club especially, one of my all-time favorite movies. So I was like, all right, it's like The Invite. You got two couples. I didn't really know anything about this. I was like, what is this? Is this like an adult movie? Is this relationships or whatever? And then, so I looked at Rotten Tomatoes. Critic score, 97%. 97% of critics gave it a favorable review. So like, wow. And sometimes when it happens, it's like, why does that happen? What does that mean? And sometimes, the movies that I personally like Evil Dead or whatever, they get lower reviews. So sometimes it's like, okay, the critics in their pretentious whatever nature, they tend to like the more artistic movies, the cinema, whatever. But then you look at the popcorn meter, 91%, verified viewers, whatever. So, and I always say that, who's going to be reviewing, when you do that, I guess it's people that either loved it or hate it. So we can look up, I haven't looked up like Cinema Score or anything like that. I don't know if it's listed on Wikipedia, all that. So we have this movie. The other thing is it's an A24 movie. And I know some people are a little like, oh, A24 is using AI. They suck and stuff like that. What they have said about that, I don't know if I've talked about it, but they said that they wanted to kind of get on board to be aware of what it was, to kind of know what the threat was. Maybe, I hope that's the case, or maybe that's just their PR excuse. I don't know. And then, there's controversy over a bunch of stuff like on Redbubble or somewhere where people have all this backroom stuff, like wallpaper, Post-it notes or whatever, and they're getting taken down a copyright notice. And all the people on Reddit, because like so this guy's complaining that he's like selling this stuff and it was taken down. He's like, because like the whole idea with backrooms is no one owns that. It's like free IP or something like that, because the original image came off of 4chan or something like that. Some anonymous person put up, and then Kane Parsons, he took this idea, built this, whatever. So the idea is no one really owns backrooms. And so these people, and I kind of get it. So they're like, well, we should be able to sell whatever backroom. No one owns backrooms. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, that's true. So my question is, when you're having your Redbubble, Etsy shop or whatever, and you're selling backroom stuff, were you selling it before? Or is it because of the huge success of the movie, now you're capitalizing on that? And that's where I'm like, that seems a little, because of what Kane did, even though he took the idea that existed, but he built his own little corner, his own lore or whatever. And so I don't know, but A24, because even Kane's like, yeah, I'm going to look into that because that shouldn't be happening. But what A24 said, that it was like an automated takedown thing, was automatically like just sending out copyright strikes. And maybe because people were listing as backrooms or whatever, and I know you can't copyright the concept of backrooms, but maybe the name of the backrooms, maybe you can only say backroom or not backroom, or I don't even know. So still, I look at A24, the movies that they back, that they release, they distribute, whatever you want to call it, they're good movies. So when I saw the invite was A24, I'm like, okay. I don't know what the budget is, but apparently so far it's made $23.5 million. I can't imagine it has a huge budget, because at its core, it's a pretty simple movie. The cast is pretty much just them. It starts off, Seth Rogen, he's like a music teacher or something like that, and he's like sitting in this auditorium, and there's a bunch of people on stage, and they do it, and he's like barely paying attention, and he's like, yeah, that was great. He's like, why don't you do it a couple times? And he like gets up and walks out. And then pretty sure they're in must be in San Francisco. And then he's like riding his bike, and then he ends up back at his apartment eventually. And that is really, that's where the movie takes place, is in the apartment that he and Olivia Wilde live in. And basically what it is she invited Penelope Cruz and Ed Norton to dinner, and he's like, what? And, because he's home, he's tired, his back is killing himself, trying to ride this bike, whatever, everything like that. And, he just wants, he's like collapses on the floor. As soon as he walks in, she's like, take your shoes off. And she's like, you can fold up this bike. She's like, I got you this bike because you can fold it, whatever. So, it's like all this stuff. He works all day, and then, he just wants to, whatever, rest and everything. And she's like, no, we have this dinner. She's like, I told you about this. We've been talking about it for months. But there's kind of issues with them. And like one of the things is, from their apartment, they can hear like every time they're having sex, Penelope Cruz and Ed Norton, because they're apparently super loud and everything like that. And they also have a daughter. Their daughter is at a sleepover and stuff like that. It was supposedly like a last minute thing. So, and she's done all this stuff. You can see, she's preparing. She's been making a casserole. She got this new rug, and so she really wants everything to be perfect and everything like that. And he wants nothing to do with this. So he's like super negative and everything. And there's the whole like start of the movie is like super tense and uncomfortable, just the way they're bickering and everything. And he just whatever like that. So finally, when they come, because then there's things. She's like, "You didn't get the wine," and he's like, "What? I'm on my bike." He's like, I can't, read text when I'm writing. And she's like, well, I told you about this yesterday. He's like, no, when did you tell me yesterday? And so like all this stuff. So, there's no wine. And, so it's just, it keeps going. So they finally get there and things are a little awkward. But then I don't know how much, see I don't know what the official thing is. On Rotten Tomato, the short description says, Joe and Angela's marriage is on thin ice. When they invite their enigmatic upstairs neighbor for a dinner party, the night spirals into unexpected places. Have they reignited the spark or lit the match that burns it all down? So that's kind of where things go. You got this couple and they kind of seem to be a little different with like some of their beliefs and ideas and just their behavior. And then Joe and Angela, Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde, they're kind of like in this awkward state as well. And just there's a lot of talking, which I can appreciate that because, not everything has to be, action. So there's really something to be said about a movie that can just be the entire thing. It's just nonstop talking. And this is where when you kind of like step out of the movie a little bit, when you look at just the way the scenes are filmed and just this is where it really comes down to like the dialogue and the script, whatever. So the screenplay was written by Will McCormick and Rashida Jones, which I'm sure you know who she is. It's based off a book, The People Upstairs by Cesc Gay, CESC. But it really comes down, so now this really relies on the actors to perform because all they're doing is basically in this room, pretty much the entire play, it's an apartment in the living room, but they have to carry the conversations and they have to make them real. They have to make them sound real and everything. And they do that. They do this like awesome job of just really conveying the conversation and everything like that. And it's just like the way they deliver lines and maybe like talk over each other or cut each other off. It's just it's just like fantastic. I mean, they do such an amazing job. Like all four of them, you just really believe it. It's like you don't really see. It's like, okay, action, scene, whatever, and okay, you read this line, and it just goes and. They do a great job. As tense as things were in the beginning and kind of annoying or whatever like that, there are some points. It gets pretty hilarious. I thought there's a couple just simple basic lines and I kind of like snorted out. There wasn't a lot of people in the theater because it's been out a couple of weeks and it was in one of the smaller theaters. So I think there's 5 other people in the theater with me. And there's a couple. I kind of laughed at something that shouldn't have been funny. It's natural, but just the way it's like Seth Rogen says it kind of caught me off guard, and it was very blunt. And so it's yeah. So you get and that's the other thing about this movie. It's almost like there's different layers or different levels to it because you got the beginning, you got the middle, and you got the different acts or whatever you want to call it. So you just really get a lot of different emotions and displays and just performances and they do a great job. And for a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like, I did not realize that's what this movie was about. I was like, are we really going there? It's like, what's happening here? And it's like, okay. Okay. And it's just, yeah. So without having known a whole lot about it, I was like, what is going on? And so I have to say, I mean, it's definitely a movie worth seeing. It's very tense, very awkward, and just you feel for like what's going on. And yeah, so great performances, and I was really surprised and really impressed. I can see why it has high rating. I kind of feel like I joked to my buddy, talked to him after it, and I said, this is the kind of movie Kevin Smith wishes that he could write, because a lot of Kevin Smith's movies are just talking movies. It's a lot about the conversations and making it work. No offense to Kevin Smith, whatever. I shouldn't even say it's stupid to say that. I just found that his movies lately just haven't been doing it. I was the biggest Kevin Smith fan, and I just recently saw the 4:30 movie, and I bought the Steelbook, not knowing anything about the movie. And it was the same thing where it's like taking real instances, real conversations, but then it all turns into like, oh, this is a Kevin Smith autobiography or something. That's supposed to be his character inserted, and that's what he does a lot. It's like he writes himself into the movies, and rather than just have, here's a straight situation, which, you have had, I guess, with like Chasing Amy's, that wasn't so much, Kevin Smith inserted, Silent Bob was in or whatever. So no, again, not knocking Kevin Smith, but this was just really, this was like a great movie. And it's seeing this a week after watching The Odyssey, and that's a whole other thing with people praising that, people complaining about that. It's so ridiculous, the complaints that I'm seeing. And it's like, did you really watch this movie? When I'm seeing all these people complaining about different things, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. But having The Odyssey's huge spectacle of a movie, and then watching this, it's probably like a fraction of the budget, and it's just like different. They require different performances and different everything, different direction, different all this stuff like that. So it's really, this is what makes movies fun and exciting, that you can have different types of movies. And next week is going to be Spider-Man Brand New Day. So we got like all these different types of movies. We are so fortunate to have this. And so I really think widen your horizons. Don't just see the same stuff, because I tend to like horror movies or the superhero movies, the action movies and stuff like that. But having something like this, where this is where I'm sure a lot of people would be like, oh, you probably wouldn't like this movie. But it's like, no, you don't know what I like or don't like. I've had people close to me say, it's like, oh, there's a lot of talking in this movie, you won't like it. I'm like, that is ridiculous. You clearly know absolutely nothing about me or my tastes or whatever. So I thought this was great. You definitely should see it. It's hilarious. It's heavy. It's profound, I guess. Brilliant performances. Everyone, even Seth Rogen. As much as I would critique him, he was great in this. All four of them. It's something. Just I don't know if you'll be ready for it unless you like read spoilers. But it was I'm super glad I saw it. I still want to see that other movie. I hope to see it, or Her Private Hell. Hopefully someday I'll get to see it, but this was great. So definitely you should see The Invite. Should I bother? I didn't do the other stuff. Let's see what it says. It was released 2026 Sundance Film Festival, January 24th. So a lot of people. A24, Netflix, Searchlight Pictures, Focus Features, Sony Pictures, Black Bear Pictures, Neon, Apple TV. So bidding went as high as 10 million. The bidding war eventually narrowed down to A24 and Focus, with offers going over 12 million, despite a last-minute bid from Warner Brothers Pictures, Warner Brothers Clockwork, whatever. A24 ultimately acquired the film's U.S. distribution right. Box office. It grossed 15 million, United States, Canada, 8.5 other territories, blah, blah, blah. And then 97% of the 250 critics' reviews are positive, average rating at 8.1 out of 10. Perversely funny while giving its quartet of fine actors some of their best material yet. The Invite is a sophisticated farce that reaffirms Olivia Wilde as one of the most exciting filmmakers working today. Metacritics will use a weighted average, 82 out of 100 based on 47 critics, indicating universal acclaim. Surveyed by Post-Track, audiences surveyed gave the film an 89% positive score, with 69% saying they would definitely recommend it. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be for anyone. There's some, I don't want to say touchy topics, but there's some stuff that some people might feel uncomfortable with. But, again, be an adult, be mature. It's whatever. Yeah, so there you go. I'm not going to read the rest. So yeah, that was great. You should see it, unless it's topics that you're not into, I guess. But I really enjoyed that, so I'm glad I saw it. Not the typical. I was worried because I was like, this isn't really like your typical podcast movie, but it was great. I'm so glad I saw it, and I'm so glad that you are here listening. So thank you. But that is going to be the podcast for this week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to that sacred podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Last week, I did a look back at Action Comics, was 454 from 1975, that were to cover Superman's like chowing down on burgers. Big mountain, big pile of burgers, and he's just like chowing down for some reason. Sometimes I do off of mind topics. No idea what I'm going to do this week, but it'll be something cool and awesome. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck and buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. So next week, as I mentioned, we're going to have Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm so excited. Fingers crossed, I will let you know. I do not want to know who Sadie Sink is playing before. It's going to come out. And I don't know, man, it's people are just such jerks. So it's like, entire week, like from now until Thursday, do I just not look on Facebook, not look on Instagram? Because people are, I don't want to know. I mean, it's silly in a way because it's like oh, the Punisher's in there, so you know about that. Oh, the Scorpion's going to be in there. Spoiler, hopefully, he's in there. It's like I just want to go and be, like, if anyone else pops up in there, I don't want to know. I want to be surprised, and it's just like Steve Rogers, getting Mjolnir. If you knew that ahead of time, it'd still be cool, but when that happened, man, that was like unforgettable. So yeah, we'll have that. So we got Spider-Man. We'll have probably more Silo, unless people are like, yeah, you can skip that. More X-Men 97. More My Adventure with Superman, and that'll be it. So I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're having fun times. I hope you remember, be good to each other.